I was going to say this is, okay, there we go. Now we have noise. That's loud.
Are here?
It's like a glass bar.
Madam President, we are
Yes.
recording.
Good morning. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Water and Power Commissioners. Today is Tuesday, October 26, 2021. This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. General Counsel?
Good morning. In accordance with Assembly Bill 361, this meeting is being conducted in part remotely with certain commissioners appearing from remote locations. All public comment will be taken telephonically. Members of the public wishing to call in and offer public comment can do so by calling area code 213-306-3065. Again, that number is 213-306-3065. When prompted, please enter code 248-432-02975. Again, 248-432-02975. For members of the public wishing to offer public comment, you will have 2 minutes per item and a total time of 5 minutes for all items. When calling in, please state if you are speaking on general public comment or a specific item. Also, if you are watching this proceeding on your computer when offering public comment, please turn down the volume so that we don't get feedback. We may take a recess from time to time if we lose a quorum due to technical difficulties or encounter technical difficulties. At this point, Madam Secretary, I would turn it over back to you.
Thank you. I will now conduct roll. President McCLAIN-HILL.
Present.
Vice President Reyes.
Present.
Commissioner Barad Hopkins. Commissioner LEHRER.
Here, present.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady.
Present.
Commissioner Barad Hopkins, are you there? 4 members present in a quorum.
Thank you. And before I provide opening comments, first I want to apologize for starting the meeting late. And then we've got a pretty packed agenda and a number of people listening in. I'd like to go to public comment for the purpose of allowing Council President Aide Max Podimsky to speak. He wants to make comments on our consumer debt relief item, but has to get back to the council meeting to support the council president. So we'll open with remarks from him. Board Secretary?
I think he's on.
Oh, is he on the line?
Yes.
Ah, terrific. I'm sorry. Max, to you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to speak to you today, and just want to applaud the work that the board has done so far in utility debt relief. This is a huge priority of the council president, ensuring that working families in LA who have, overwhelmingly suffered the brunt of the epidemic are able to have access to water and power. So we think it's a really positive sign what's happened at the state level with the funding that has been made available. But the council president is calling for us to look at this systematically and create longer term policies of how we handle debt for low-income customers. And we introduced a motion several months. So we really look forward to the board considering that and, creating policy, long-term policies to deal with debt. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and we look forward to continuing to work with policymakers on this issue and certainly concur with the Councilwoman's interest in long-term systemic response to the issue of utility debt. So thank you for your comments. With that, I would like to move to my morning remarks. October is Filipino American History Month, and I'd like to begin today's meeting by offering brief comments before turning the gavel over to Board Vice President SUSANA Reyes. In our workforce, Of more than 11,000 employees, about 600 are of Filipino American descent, and we are exceedingly proud to take time to recognize them, celebrate them, and recognize the role that Filipino Americans have played in American history and how they're helping to shape American history today. More than 30 years ago, the Filipino American National Historical Society set October as Filipino American History Month to mark the arrival of the first Filipinos in America on October 18, 1587, when they landed in what is now known as Morro Bay, California. October also happens to be the birth month of Filipino American labor leader Larry Italy Young, who, and you'll have to help me on the pronunciation, Susana, who stood alongside Cesar Chavez championing labor rights for California farm workers. Note that this month is Filipino History Month, not Heritage Month. This goes beyond celebrating heritage through food, traditional practices, and music. Rather, it is time for us to raise awareness about Filipino American history, which is not widely reported, taught, or therefore appreciated by many. How many of us even know that two of the original Los Angeles pobladores who helped establish our city were Filipino? This is why it is important that we shed light on Filipino American history. Like many other ethnic groups, it is rich with significant achievements and expressions of cultural values, but also full of strife, struggle, and dark stories of discrimination, exclusion, and hatred. Unbeknownst to many, Filipino Americans have experienced marginalization and discrimination and been banned from certain public places, much like Blacks were during segregation. During the 20s and 30s in particular, LAPD officers openly expressed their displeasure over Filipinos, arresting them with little or no cause. And that kind of discrimination continued through the decades in various forms and venues, like in farms where many Filipinos worked, in hospitals where there are nurses, in the service industries where they cooked, served, mopped, and cared for others, and unfortunately, in recent times, during the rise of Asian hatred in relation to the pandemic. But Filipinos are a resilient, strong-willed, and hardworking community, and they have continued to rise above adversity and claim their space in American society today. What better example than our own board vice president, SUSANA REYES, whose leadership and passion for the environment exemplifies making Filipino American history today. Along with many Filipino American leaders and employees within the department who proudly serve our city and contribute each day to the reliability and resiliency of our city's water and power service. As board president, I want you all to know that we see you, we appreciate you, we celebrate you and your rich history and countless contributions to our department and our country. We are proud to stand with you and have you as part of LADWP. Happy Filipino American History Month. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Commission Vice President Susana Reyes.
Thank you so much, President McCLAIN-HILL, my colleagues on the board, and General Manager and Chief Engineer Marty Adams, for your support of Filipino Americans. I am a proud Filipino American and excited to highlight Filipino American History Month, not only at LADWP, but also in our city. So on the screen that you see is a photo I took with many of our 600 Filipino American employees at DWP pre-COVID times. I am proud to stand with them, uplift them, and share with our customers and residents of LA that we have talented, resilient, and dedicated Filipino American public servants, helping bring reliable water and power and deliver excellent customer service to the largest municipal utility in the nation. Through our work and our engagement in the community, we are all making Filipino American history today. Next slide, please. So to help mark Filipino American History Month, I joined Public Works Commissioner Jessica Coloza to speak before City Council last Tuesday to celebrate the contributions of Filipino Americans to enrich our city and our country. I took the opportunity to highlight the importance of promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion in our workplaces and to shed light on the history of Filipino Americans and many other people of color that get overlooked and left unreported, therefore leading to a lack of appreciation and cultural understanding. Thank you to City Council Pro Temp Mitch O'Farrell, Council Members Gil Cedillo, Council Member Kevin De Leon, and Council Member Paul Koretz for sponsoring the resolution in honor of the Filipino American History Month in City Council. In December this year, Filipino Americans will again proudly celebrate, but this time we will celebrate the unveiling of the historic Filipino town Eastern Gateway Marker, another milestone in our Filipino American history. Next slide, please. So last Thursday, the 21st, I hosted an educational webinar about Filipino American history with the support of our staff in communications and public affairs. Special shout out to Michelle Figueroa for making that event very successful. We had Senior Assistant General Manager and Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer Monique Earle join us to deliver opening remarks on behalf of senior management. So thank you, Monique. And we had the honor of having guest speaker Dr. Joseph Bernardo, who is an adjunct professor, host of the podcast This Filipino American Life, which I encourage you all to listen to. And Joe is a proud son of LADWP retiree Carmencita Bernardo, who retired in 2005 after 30 years of service to LADWP. We had a great turnout with over 300 WebEx attendees at the event, and Dr. Bernardo's presentation was a powerful account of our Filipino American history that is not often shared or told. We also had 4 of our employees participate in the webinar, and you see their faces there. And I want to publicly thank Alvin Bautista, Christina Tolentino, Carlo Rondilon Sabio, and Maria Cison Roses for sharing their personal histories. If you missed the webinar, please check our LADWP's Vimeo page and take a look. It's worth watching. And as President McCLAIN-HILL said, 600 of LADWP's employees are of Filipino American descent. They all work day in and day out to serve the customers of LADWP. Among them are several LADWP Filipino American leaders and top-ranked employees, and I would like to share their names with you up on the screen. Take a look at them. They're all over doing a range of functions to deliver the services for LADWP to our customers. A few of them are here in person, and I invited them today to be here at the board and we have distancing. I only invited 5 of them. So I would like to invite them to please stand up and be acknowledged here today. So I'm going to call their names. Anna Mae Peji, Assistant Director of Information Systems. P. Joy Chua, Electrical Services Manager, Power System.
Wait. Can you just wait 1 second? I can't see the people. Is there a way the audience, where we can see them? I hear you calling their names, but.
Do you see the board?
Yeah.
No, all I'm seeing is, you see it? Yeah, you see the board? All I see is the.
I see the boardroom over there. I see the boardroom next to Marty right now.
There's a
So,
boardroom photo, and you could move it to the stage if you want.
Okay, there we go. I see. I found it. There's so many people on it. I was scrolling through there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Please continue.
And they're
So,
going
I
to
don't
try to
wanna miss it.
push the videos, to push the camera so that they can appear larger.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Hi, everybody. Go ahead, please.
All right. The third person, Romel Balba, Power Transmission and Distribution District Supervisor. Alvin Bautista, Managing Water Utility Engineer. And last but not least, Lizelle Mutok, Utility Administrator. Thank you for being here today and representing the Filipino Americans in our workforce. It's really important to fully acknowledge the contributions of Filipino Americans because of their role and the role of many other people of color have been overlooked. This is a time of reflection and remembrance and a time to renew efforts towards research and examination of our history and culture. We want to provide that opportunity for all people in our country to learn and appreciate more about Filipino Americans and their historic contributions to our nation. And to those of you who haven't had a chance to learn or hear about Filipino American history, I hope you find time to do so. It is my belief that if you start to look at your history with clear eyes, you will more likely be able to look at the world with clear eyes as well. In closing, no ethnic group is a monolith, and embracing our histories helps promote understanding and appreciation of all our backgrounds that are what inherently make our community and our workplace strong, diverse, equitable, and inclusive. Happy Filipino American History Month. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Board VP Reyes, and thank you all for being here. It's so terrific to have people in our boardroom, so thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much.
We are going to deviate just one more time from our standard format before moving to public comment, and that is to move forward a presentation recognizing Metropolitan Water District Director John Murray. That is, we're moving item I3 forward. And I think that presentation is being handled by our Director of Water, or Water Systems, Anselmo Collins, if I'm correct. Anselmo, are you first up, or Marty, or gentlemen? How is this happening?
Commissioner, actually, the general manager is going to be taking care of this.
Okay, terrific. Mr. Adams.
Thanks, Anselmo. So this is a recognition that we are hosting. It's interesting because our MWD director, John Murray, who's spent many years on the Met board serving the city of Los Angeles and its residents. Our Met directors are appointees by the mayor. They do not have an official tie to the Department of Water and Power, yet everything they do in their service as a Met director supports the department and our customers and the efforts that we make in the water system. And so in coordination with the mayor's office, we've been asked to host a recognition for Director Murray at our meeting this morning, which is completely appropriate, and we couldn't think of a better location to recognize his many years of service. So first, Rebecca Rasmussen from the mayor's office, who's our liaison from the department to the mayor's office, and also supports the Met directors in their performance of their duties. I would like to make a presentation on behalf of the mayor. Rebecca, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll be fast. I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you so much, John, for your 15 years of service to our office in the city of Los Angeles. You've brought transparency and increased contracting accessibility and a focus on diversity, and more importantly, just important access to water and continuity of the water service to all of Angelinos. So thank you so much for your time. I personally will miss your directness and your intolerance for BS. That is something that is very important to have in a large agency such as MWD. So thank you again for everything. So I have a cert that the mayor has made. It is printed and on its way to your office. So I'm just going to read it out loud here. So, whereas John W. Murray Jr. has represented Los Angeles on the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California Board of Directors since 2006, and whereas John was active in representing Los Angeles on numerous Metropolitan Water District Board committees, including executive, organization planning and technology, legal and claims, engineering and operations, communication and legislation, Bay Delta, ethics, and water and planning, and whereas as chair of OP&T committee, John increased the Metropolitan Water District's contribution to equity by proposing and securing adoption by the board an increase in the contract award participation for small, minority, and women-owned businesses from 18% to 25%. And whereas John was the lead director on the successful completion of 5 multi-year collective bargaining agreements with the 4 bargaining units within MET personnel, and whereas John introduced the inclusion of workforce diversity as a performance metric for evaluation of the Metropolitan Water District department heads, and whereas John supported increased funding for MWD's conservation program during the 2012 to 2016 drought from $35 million to more than $450 million, to help meet then Governor Brown's 25% conservation goal. And whereas John helped to establish and chair the Central West Gateway Caucus to bring together directors and agency managers from Los Angeles, Santa Monica, Central Basin, West Basin, Beverly Hills, Torrance, Long Beach, and Compton, along with other agency guests to provide a forum to exchange information, educate, and dialogue on important water issues. And whereas as chair of OP&T, John led the committee to oversee the process for the recruitment and selection of the new general manager and the selection of the Hawkins Company to conduct the search, all of which resulted in the selection of Mr. Adele Hodgeclear as our new general manager for MWD. And whereas John's actions were critical towards creating sustainable water supply resources and ensuring that millions of Angelinos had access to clean water while promoting equity and diversity within MET to better reflect and serve its customers. Now, therefore, I, Rebecca Rasmussen, on behalf of Eric Garcetti and Mayor of Los Angeles, and on behalf of its residents, do hereby present this certificate to John W. Murray, Jr., recognizing his 15 years of service to our city and his accomplishments and achievements have created a more livable, sustainable, and resilient Los Angeles for generations to come. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Rebecca. You'd never believe that was a volunteer job for 15 years. So,
I also understand we have a video from Councilmember Koretz. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Hello, everyone. It was an honor and a pleasure for me to serve with John Murray on the Metropolitan Water District Board. I found him to be a gentleman and a pleasure to serve with, and truly the anchor of the LA delegation. I know by the time he was done at the Met Board, he had already served on just about every committee and had chaired many of the important ones. He'd made a huge impact on a variety of issues, especially equity and water conservation and water sustainability. I know working with me in my short time there, we had pretty good success in the areas of water conservation and use of recycled water. And I know it couldn't have been done without John Murray's help and leadership. John was a great mentor to me and to Andy Schrader, who staffed me. We both greatly appreciate it and are hugely in his debt. We want to thank him for all that he has done for our water system that will be impacted positively for decades. And we thank you for your incredible service to the city of Los Angeles. Thanks, John, for everything that you've done.
That's a nice message from Councilmember Koretz. I'd like to ask Dave Pettyjohn, who has been in the trenches dealing on Met issues and probably works the closest with our Met directors, to say a few words. Dave?
Thank you, Marty, and good morning, President McCLAIN-HILL, commissioners. And hello again, Director Murray, and very glad to see you and your lovely wife, Madeline, there. So I do want to say that I've had the unique pleasure of working with Director Murray for his entire time on the Met Board, well over 15 years now. And I have to say this, his wife, Madeline, has been just continually supportive of John for the last 15 years. There have been many times where I've called John early in the morning, late in the evenings, on weekends, and Madeline has answered the phone and has always been very gracious and understanding. And, you know, people don't serve the way Director Murray has done for 15 years if they don't love the city of Los Angeles. You know, John has a deep love and respect for what the city does. And he's been just spent countless hours over the last 15 years. This is almost like a full-time job to really be effective at Metropolitan. It takes dedication and effort and time to be as influential as Director Murray is. And for 15 years, he's really served us in a way that really is just outstanding. It's important to know that people who serve on the Met Board really don't get compensated at all. There's no financial incentive to be on the Met Board. This is all done altruistically. It's a burden on them, on their family, in time and effort and energy. It's just been a long haul for many years. And we just have so much to thank Director Murray about. Rebecca highlighted a few of his accomplishments, but you can't put 15 years on a page like that. And his contributions during the time as he's been a director has just been numerous. And I can tell you from personal experience, there have been many, many times where the city of Los Angeles' interests were at risk and at stake. And in every single instance for the last 15 plus years, there was one person out in front leading the charge, trying to influence things in the right direction. And that person was John Murray. John, you have always advocated for the city of LA and its ratepayers, protecting our interests. You've always got involved in the difficult fights and issues at Metropolitan that would affect and impact the city in a positive or negative way had we not prevailed. And on too many issues to count, John was really the decisive person that made the difference for us. And, you know, here's one example. As chair of the organization Planning and Technology Committee, it was John Murray who made sure that the selection of the general manager, the process was fair, open, and inclusive. And I've got to tell you, had he not done that, we'd have a different general manager at the Metropolitan Water District than the one we have now. We have an excellent GM who came from the city of LA because of John Murray. It's so hard, and I really feel that it's just inadequate for me to condense 15 plus years of someone's dedicated service to the city and to our customers into a few short words. But suffice it to say that the city and our customers owe a debt of gratitude to John and his family and his wife that can't be quantified and can never be repaid for the untold hours that he's served and sacrificed protecting the city and its residents and our ratepayer interests. John, the entire team here at LADWP, we will miss you, and we really wish you Godspeed in whatever you and Madeline and your family choose to do and accomplish in the future. Thanks, John. Let's stay in touch. You're a great friend. I'm going to miss working with you, but I plan on meeting with you regularly to continue to get your advice on things. John, it's just been a great pleasure. And DeLon has a few things he wants to say to you as well, John.
DeLon.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. And good morning, commissioners, and hello again, Director Murray as well. So my name is DeLon Kwan, Assistant Director of Water Resources in the water system. I personally had the pleasure of working for and learning a great deal from Director Murray for the last 11 years, supporting him on all MWD matters. You know, Director Murray, you set the bar really high for a director at the Met Board. You are well respected by your fellow Met Board members, by Met Executive Management. As Dave had indicated, you always advocated for the city of LA and its ratepayers, protecting the city's interests. I just want to let you know the executive team here at DWP wishes you and Madeline a well-deserved, long, happy, safe, and healthy retirement. Very glad to hear also that you'll be now finally spending quality time with your loved ones. And as Dave had mentioned, that you will no longer be getting bothering phone calls from us early in the morning or late in the evening and on weekends. Again, cannot reiterate enough that we can't thank you and your family enough for the many, for the 15 years that you served and have sacrificed for the city. So with that, President McCLAIN-HILL, turn it back to you.
Thank you so very much. And before we hear from Mr. Murray, I'd simply like to say that in addition to his service at the Met Board, both he and his wife, Madeline, have been just towering figures in the civic life of Los Angeles. And have stood as both examples and inspiration to many. I met John, gosh, I won't even say how long ago, but it is his example. And frankly, I'm so pleased that that acknowledgement of Madeline has taken place as well, because it is both his example and hers that formed the basis of my interest in serving as a volunteer commissioner in the city of Los Angeles. And while no one does it for the recognition, I will say that it is not a burden, and I know for them it has not been a burden. It is a privilege to shape and participate in the governance of the place that we all love. And John has pursued it with integrity, with great dignity, with leadership, and with an abundance of love and hope for the future. So I'm very pleased that we are the forum in which this recognition is taking place this morning. Director Murray, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Commission President McCLAIN-HILL and General Manager Marty Adams, Anselmo Collins, my good friend Dave Pettyjohn, the person who I've also come to depend on in great many ways over the years. It's just DeLon Quan, and of course, Rebecca Rasmussen from the mayor's office. I just want to say it has been an honor and it's been a pleasure. And, capped off finally most recently by the selection of the new general manager. LA had to work oftentimes at a deficit with the prior leadership at the Metropolitan Water District, and yet we fought through. And I just want you, the members of the Commission of DWP, to know you have an outstanding team that has the respect of others in the industry, other general managers. And, when your people speak in meetings, others listen. And it has been through their hard work and advocacy for so many things that don't just benefit LA. I learned under Tom Bradley many, many years ago that what's good for LA is good for the region. So when we would often be arguing a position, that someone would say, well, that's what LA wants. Well, what LA wants is going to benefit an awful lot of people outside of the boundaries of the city of LA. And so I would just certainly continue to advocate that as you all move forward. I do want to thank my wife, for her patience, tolerance, and support, for the calls and the emails during vacations and nighttime and whatnot. But she knows me well enough to know that I wouldn't have been doing it if I didn't want to do it. So she supported my investment and my commitment because she knew that that's what I wanted. And I just want to say to all of you, thank you so much for the opportunity to serve. I'm pleased with what I think we were able to get, often against great odds. And of course, finally, as I said, capping off my term there with the selection of the general manager, who I believe we have the right general manager now, who's going to continue to need the support, by the way, of the city of Los Angeles. He's got a tough row to hoe, and I think he's working tirelessly already, has accomplished many things in his first 100 days that had not been done in more than 15 years. So members of the commission, as you work with Marty and Dave and others and Anselmo, please look for ways that the city of LA can continue to support Adel Haj-Khalil. I think it will benefit the region and certainly benefit LADWP and the city of Los Angeles. So with that, I thank you all and say adios.
Thank you so very much. Now we will move to public comment. Board Secretary, would you please introduce speakers?
Good morning, callers. Please state your full name and the agenda item you will be speaking on. Please be mindful that you will have 2 minutes for public comment. The first caller is Andrea O'Laughlin.
Hi, my name is Andrea. I'm a stakeholder in LA, specifically Boyle Heights. I'm also a member of the Repower LA Coalition. And I just wanted to say, firstly, we're very supportive of today's presentation regarding the shut-off moratorium. But the second reason why I'm calling is to uplift how the DWP needs to support folks struggling with debt and allow them to have access to programs like the Shared Solar Program and the Home Energy Improvement Program. I do community outreach for both of these, and every day that I'm out in the field, I see the discrepancy between the DWP's well-intended development of energy efficiency programs and the failure to implement them with full intention. The Shared Solar Program, for example, touts that there's no upfront costs, no cancellation fees, no credit checks required to enroll, and no rooftop required to participate, which is all phenomenal. But what is the point of all of these benefits if they can't be applied to the customers that need them the most? What sliver of customers are these programs actually tailored for? Our debt-burdened customers are the ones who are most crucially needing programs like Shared Solar Program, where they can be included in LA Solar Energy Shift and have access to saving money long-term on their bills as their solar rates lock in. Your low-income and debt-ridden customers are those who are most impacted by your decision-making, and I really urge the board to consider the population of customers they say they want to uplift. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. The next caller is Gabriel Correa. Gabriel Carrillo.
Hi, good morning. My name is Gabriel Carrillo. I'm here to make a public comment. I am from North Range, and I am a community organizer with Pacoima Beautiful. I'm also a member of the Repower LA Coalition. We are very supportive of today's presentation from Repower LA. We are hopeful that the board will extend the shutoff moratorium today, but we need to see more decisive action from the board that supports frontline communities. We need LADWP to expedite the implementation of long-term affordability measures like level play plans, budget billing, and rearranged management plans, and increase enrollment in discount programs. Working with people in the community, I've also seen a lot of people that are really struggling due to COVID and just due to issues prior to COVID. If we could have more programs that they can sign up for in which they can receive more discounts or extend the current moratorium, I think it would be not just a great help to them, but for their kids and future generations. And thank you.
Thank you. The next caller is Maria Guzman.
Good morning. My name is Maria Guzman, and I am a resident of Solar, organizing Pacoima Beautiful, and member of the Repower Coalition. I'm here to lead LADWP that we need to expedite the implementation of long-term affordability measures like level pay plans, budget billing, rearrange management plans, and increase enrollment in discount programs. Also, we want to let them know that they need to improve customer service and outreach, particularly focusing on communities of color who are disproportionately impacted by COVID-19, to make them aware of their relief shut-off protections. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. The next caller is Rosaline Tovar.
Hello. Hi, my name is Roslyn, and I'm a resident of District 8. I'm a housing outreach coordinator with Communities for a Better Environment, and I'm also a member of the Repower LA Coalition. And we are hopeful today that the board will extend the shutoff moratorium, but we also need more decisive action from the board to support frontline communities. We need immediate public communications from LADWP about shut-off moratoriums so that frontline communities are aware of the existing protections. Since September 30th, there's been a gap in the moratorium that left many community members in the dark about their protections. So as an outreach coordinator, every day I speak to families who are not aware of these protections. There's many reasons for that. A lot of times it's due to digital divide, but also sometimes to language barriers. So it's important that this information is very accessible for our community members and available in different languages. Thank you for your time and have a good day.
Thank you. The next caller is Blanca de la Cruz.
Good morning. My name is Blanca de la Cruz with the California Housing Partnership. I am speaking on item L number 7. My organization works closely with nonprofit affordable housing providers on policy advocacy for clean energy programs, and we work closely with the Association of Energy Affordability to implement a few programs, including the Low-Income Weatherization Program, or LIHWP. Locally, we are part of the Energy for All and Repower coalitions. I am truly excited to strongly support this agreement with AEA for the implementation of the Comprehensive Affordable Multifamily Retrofit Program. CAMR is LADWP's first energy efficiency program designed to specifically address the needs of low-income multifamily housing and is the result of nearly a decade of discussions between advocates for low-income renters and LADWP. This is a huge milestone for the department, and we urge the board to approve this agreement to finally put to work crucial investment dollars approved several years ago and to begin lowering the energy burden of the city's most vulnerable residents. CAMR's design will ensure that low-income renters and the affordable housing operators who serve them will directly benefit from this crucial clean energy investment. Similar to the statewide LIHWP program, CAMR offers energy efficiency and solar incentives under a single program. For this reason, there's an urgency for LADWP to offer virtual net metering or an equivalent mechanism in order to ensure that tenant solar provides the significant savings to residents seen under the LIHWP program. Because the CAMR program design includes features that differentiate it from the established programs like LIHWP, we ask for a 12-month review of CAMR program outcomes to ensure the program, as designed, is reaching the low-income customers. Thank you, and we look forward to ongoing collaboration for the success of CAMR and for the benefit of low-income Angelenos.
Thank you. The next caller is Jasmine Vargas.
Hi, good morning. This is Jasmine Vargas. I'm the senior organizer for Food and Water Watch and a proud member of Repower LA, calling in today to support my fellow coalition partners and the EJ and customer support and community services organizations that are doing the really important work on the ground of connecting people with that right now are suffering the worst of COVID with resources to help them pay for their rent and utilities. And so the extension of the moratorium, shut-off moratorium that you'll be discussing today in item number 8 is something I support, and I hope you all support and include a lot of resources and ways of letting folks know that these programs are available, specifically focusing on folks that we know are hurting right now. Furthermore, I want to add that the communities that right now can really use a utility debt relief and, information about moratorium shutoffs are struggling right now to pay their bills and could use some support. I think that along with the engagement with community about the shutoffs, we should expand the access to LADWP programs that right now can potentially save people energy, and including the shared solar program, the HYPE program, and I want to add hear the camera program that you'll be voting on, item number 7, which I have, along with Repower LA, been a huge part of moving forward at the LADWP. Energy efficiency is the cheapest form of energy. It's the energy you're not using, but on top of that, it's the energy you're not burning. And as we're transitioning to 100% clean, renewable energy, I want to elevate again and bring up the LA 100 equity strategy, which was championed and has been passed by this board and President CYNTHIA McCLAIN-HILL. So thank you so much. I really hope that that space and future opportunities for folks to be specifically low-income communities, renters, and multifamily housing users to have access to energy efficiency programs and retrofits that will reduce their overall bills and give them a chance to be part of this 100% clean energy future in an equitable and just way. Thank you so much again, board, and I see my time.
Thank you. The next caller is Tabora Reyes.
Hi, good morning. My name is Teodora Reyes, and I'm a resident of Pacoima, and I'm also a member of the Repower LA Coalition. We are very supportive of today's presentation from Repower LA, and we're very hopeful that the board will extend the shutoff moratorium today. But we need to see more decisive action from the board that supports frontline communities. That's going to look like more funds allocated for debt relief, not covered by the statewide allocation, particularly focusing on lifeline and low-income discount participants. Many members we work closely with community members, and we're also requesting more focus on the digital divide, as well as helping community members get more access to more of the programs offered by LADWP with improved customer service and outreach, particularly focusing on communities of color who are disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 to make them more aware of the debt relief shutoff protections. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. The next speaker is caller with an area code 818. The last 2 digits are 03. Okay, moving on to the next caller. Area code 626 with the last 2 digits 92. Please state your name.
Joseph Sullivan, and I work for the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 11, and the National Electrical Contractors Association of Greater Los Angeles. Good morning, board and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm speaking in strong support of item number 7, the proposed comprehensive affordable multifamily retrofits program. This program not only has profound environmental benefits, it will create healthier living environments, and it will economically assist those in need. But it has excellent workforce development language that's going to create high-road careers, lifelong careers, and excellent training opportunities for local residents. And programs like this, they force us to hire apprentices, and our apprenticeship program is transformative. Our Inside Wireman program is a 5-year education at no cost to the student. We pay about $35,000 per student. Wonderful career opportunities. They provide family-sustaining wages, benefits, retirement. Graduates can work anywhere in the U.S. And we recruit local residents from underrepresented populations like returning veterans, previously incarcerated individuals, and more. But programs like this, they also greatly help our electrical contractors, especially those designated as small businesses that were impacted by COVID. So IBW 11 and National Electrical Contractors Association greatly appreciate LADWP and its commitment to lifting up the community with programs like these. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We will try the one last caller with area code 818, last 2 digits 03. Please state your name and the item you'll be speaking on. Board President, that will now close all general comment.
Thank you. We will go to item D. Mr. Adams, General Manager report.
Thank you very much, and it's great to see everybody again this morning. I will be brief in my comments. I have just a few items that I would like to touch upon. First of all, I would like to recognize and thank our Commission Vice President SUSANA REYES for her efforts in really bringing to attention the Filipino American History Month and helping us celebrate the accomplishments and the contributions of Filipino Americans, amongst which we have a number of employees here who play a substantial and important role in the services that we provide to the city. And, as we note that when we lift up any group, we lift all of us up, and learning about each other and about our heritage and contributions really strengthens the department as all its efforts. And so I want to thank all of our Filipino American employees and thank them for letting us join you in this month of celebration. On October 14th, the Center for Climate and Energy Solutions and the Climate Registry announced the 2021 Climate Leadership Awards, and we were very proud to be honored this year with the 2021 Climate Leadership Award for our innovative partnership with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory regarding the LA 100 study. And this is the National Awards Program, and it recognizes and incentivizes exemplary corporate, organizational, and individual leadership in response to climate change. Certainly, congratulations go to Reiko Kerr, Jason Randu, Louis Ting, James Barner, Ashkan Nasiri, and all the Associated Power Systems staff that worked with them and staff from other divisions that were involved with LA 100. And I think certainly the board should be pleased and accept congratulations as well for your leadership on this very important effort. And so it's nice, again, to be recognized nationally for the groundbreaking work that we undertook. October 7th was National LED Light Day. Our public affairs folks, Senator Joe Romalo, did a lot to outreach this. We had a very highly successful campaign on that day. We moved over 29,000 LEDs to be purchased by customers and sent them rebates for those LEDs. We utilized our online product marketplace, which proved to be very effective. But again, pushing out energy efficiency products to our customers, and so it was great to participate in that National LED Light Day. Last Thursday, we joined Councilmember John Lee of CD12, the Electric Power Research Institute, which is EPRI, and LAPD Devonshire PALS program, and an event to celebrate the city of Los Angeles' first ever indoor pod farm, and that's pod, P-O-D. I want to make sure I'm clear about that. The pod farm was installed in a 40-foot shipping container that's branded Growing Healthier LA Communities. It was jointly funded by us and CD12, and we were one of about a dozen utilities throughout the country working through EPRI, studying advanced indoor food production as a solution to reduce both energy usage and water usage, as well as carbon emissions. And so it's this experimental platform. They're growing kale this first year, and the youth volunteers that work through LAPD at the PALS program in the West Valley are actually doing the work to grow the crops. It's installed on our transmission right away adjacent to the facility there. So we're proud to be engaged in that and to look at this experimental food production, which may be an avenue for more food for community needs in the future, and certainly something that is being studied as a viable alternative to solve food and water and power issues nationally, through the work with EPRI. Lastly, I'd like to call on both Brian Wilbur and Anselmo Collins to talk about our storm update. When we have storms, power system, usually not a big fan of them. Water system's a great fan of them. And so Brian will start with an update on impacts to our system. I think it's important for the board to understand the efforts that we make during storms in the LA region, and then Anselmo can follow with how that's affecting our water supply. So Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, Marty. So real quick, we made it through this one very well. A couple weeks ago, we had a wind event that came through that caused a lot of outages. And then this past weekend, yesterday and Sunday night and Monday, we had a rain event that came through that affected about 12,500 people with outages. We brought in extra crews. We had a lot of cooperation with our station maintenance groups and our station operations groups. to help really minimize the outages here. Most of the events were related to trees or some underground cable water intrusions on there. But all in all, we came through very well. We got pretty much everybody back on. We have still some outages that we're cleaning up. But for the most part, this was for our first real rain of the season. I think we came through very well this time.
Thank you, Brian. And Samo?
Good morning, commissioners. I just wanted to provide a little update on the water supply situation. So today's update, it continues to build upon prior updates that I provided to you. We're about a month into what we call the water year, the new water year that started in October. And, things continue to develop hydrologically, that is. So just a quick summary. Last Tuesday, October 19th, the governor of the state issued a proclamation expanding the drought emergency to the remaining 8 counties. So now LA County is included there. So all counties in the state are under this drought declaration. The proclamation contained many orders. The one affecting us requires water agencies to execute the appropriate phase of their water shortage contingency plan. And it's primarily there to prepare us for the ongoing dry conditions moving into next year. Just as a reminder, the city remains on our phase 2 of our contingency plan since 2009. So what basically means that outdoor watering is limited to 3 days a week, a maximum of 8 minutes per station, and there's no watering allowed between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. So the bottom line is that we are in compliance with the governor's order as is. Another ask is that the State Water Resources Control Board to look at adopting emergency regulations on prohibiting wasteful water use. Things like, for example, watering down and washing down your driveways or overwatering to the point that the water spills into the street. Well, just to let you know, here in the city, our phase 1, which has also been in effect since 2009, prohibits all those uses already. So we are in compliance. Like the general manager mentioned, with the storms that we recently had and the atmospheric rivers, we've seen recently here in the city and in the northern part of the state, we've seen a little bit of relief, which is great, and it does help a little bit. I think the total water content that we saw up in the Sierras as a result of these storms was 1.2 inches only. That's around 5% of normal if you compare it to our April 1st target. But obviously, we'll take any rain that we can get, and we will need many more of these type of storms to get out of the drought conditions that we are in. We're going to continue to monitor the supply conditions, and we're going to develop plans, both internally and externally, in the event that the conditions continue to be dry next year. On the outreach efforts, we have briefed the mayor's water cabinet a couple of weeks ago. We have also started to brief the city council offices, and we have started to brief also the neighborhood council groups. And we actually have many of those meetings also scheduled for the month of November, just to update them on what's going on and also provide them some helpful hints of what they can do moving forward. So that basically concludes my update. I'm going to continue to provide this board with updates with the latest developments as they happen. There may be a need at some point in the near future for this board to take action to implement the higher phases of the city's emergency water conservation ordinance, should there be a need to do that to respond accordingly to developing conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian and Samo. And that concludes my report, unless the board has any questions for me.
Thank you. Are there any questions from board members? Nicole.
Thank you for unmuting me. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Just really quickly, Anselmo, that was great and very thorough. I appreciate it. One thing I may have missed is with the rain that came through, is there likely to be any snowpack accumulated or retained given current forecast, or is it too early to tell?
Anselmo, you're muted.
Yes, I realize that. Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, we got a little bit of snow, and where we measured it, it comes out to around 1.2 inches of water content in the snow, and this is up in the Sierras. So we got a little bit of a bump in our numbers, but we will take it.
Sounds good. That's helpful. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
All right, perfect. Any other questions from commissioners? Dr. Pickle, I see your screen. You came back on screen. Did you have any question regarding the general manager report or comment? You were muted, sir.
I was just anticipating item F.
All right. Well, then let's get down to item F. First, we've got item E, and I'm unaware of any motions for future consideration. So moving to item F, Dr. Pickle.
We will have comments on the management presentations, and if any questions arise on the items for approval, we'll comment then.
Okay, thank you so much. Board Secretary, anything from neighborhood councils?
No community impact statements or formal positions were filed by any neighborhood councils on the items on today's agenda.
Terrific. That takes us to item H. And I would like to have I have questions, or actually I'd like a brief presentation on item 7. Are there any other items that commissioners would like to see presentations on before we take action here? Seeing none.
No, thank you.
Terrific. Then I would like a motion on items L1 through L6 and items 8 and 9.
I move approval for items L1 to L6, L8 to L9.
Is there a second?
I'm sorry, I second that, but is there some reason we're holding 10?
Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss one? Nope, just my oversight. We will also need to make item L10 part of that motion. Is that okay with you, Commissioner Reyes?
That will be fine.
Terrific. Commissioner NEEMAN Brady has seconded. Would you please take the roll?
President McCLAIN-HILL?
Aye.
Vice President Reyes?
Aye.
Commissioner Barad Hopkins?
Aye.
Commissioner LEHRER?
Aye.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady?
Aye.
5 ayes, it is passed.
Thank you, and I'd just like to note that with the adoption of those items, we have indeed formally extended by resolution the moratorium on shutoffs through March. I look forward to hearing about efforts to make sure that that is broadly known across the city of Los Angeles. So thank you for that. We will move to management presentations. I didn't note it before, but would like to note that we are joined today by members of the Repower LA Coalition, its director, Augustin Cabrera, also an organizer with Repower, Cameron Hurt, and Tiffany Wong, who's a policy associate at Scope, and they will be part of today's presentation. With that, we will start with presentation 1 from the department related to customer assistance, state relief funds, and basically utility debt. So, department, who's providing this presentation?
We're led by Nancy, I believe.
By Nancy?
Nancy.
Actually, George Raffel from customer service will give the presentation, and I will be available for questions.
Okay, thank you. George?
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for providing time for this briefing. Steve, next slide. So the pandemic has and continues to impact our customers in a number of ways, and has caused a large number to fall behind on their water and power bills. So we recognize that this impact is not over, and the recovery will take time. So we've made several operational changes throughout the pandemic. However, we are continuing to incorporate customer and community feedback to update and streamline our service offerings and remove obstacles to help the most customers. And we're implementing new programs where we have gaps in assisting customers. Next slide. So we are continuing to focus on the state relief funds, which we are expecting to provide significant debt relief to the largest number of customers. So we are currently waiting for the allocations, which we expect any day now. Based on the applications submitted by all the utilities, we are anticipating to receive up to $183 million for nearly 250,000 active residential customers. Next slide.
Why is it only residential on this one, yet water is also inclusive of commercial?
There are 4 priority groups that the state has set up for these based on the number of applications that have been provided from all the utilities. We don't think it'll get down to the commercial priority, which is the 3rd one. So we expect it'll cover the residential, or we're anticipating.
Yeah, there's some chance that it will cover commercial, but we're not anticipating that given the limited amount of money. You can say that about $300 million, but.
Now, on the water side, based on the applications, we're anticipating that it'll get through the 4 priorities and we'll reach the commercial segment. So with that, we're right now anticipating to receive over $80 million, with $70 million for residential and $12 million for approximately 7,000 commercial customers.
Okay, so LADWP applies and on behalf of the customers, and then upon receipt of the relief from the government, we then transfer it to those respective accounts that we deem eligible.
Yes.
Yeah, the legislature established the eligibility criteria for who is eligible to receive this. That's why this priority system, they put in this priority system. So we provided to the state the arrearages in the covered period, so from March 2020 to June 2021. And so we're expecting to get word any minute now about our allocation from the state, and then we have to basically apply again, and they'll send us the money, which we credit to customers' accounts. So customers do not have to take any action.
Great, thank you for clarifying.
Next slide. So in total, we're anticipating up to $265 million in total relief funds that will support or assist approximately 280,000 customers. This, as Nancy mentioned, this won't require customers to apply for these funds or take any action. So we're handling the coordination with the state. Our tech team is ready to apply the credits to the accounts. Our communications team has prepared the customer notifications, so those are ready to go. And our customer team is ready to answer customer questions as they come in. Next slide. After this major relief effort, we expect that many of our customers will still need assistance. So the number of income-based assistance customers in arrears will drop by more than half, from almost 48,000 to 23,000, and from $37 million to a little over $4.5 million. And our non-discount-based customers will also drop by half to approximately 103,000 customers with arrears of nearly $42 million. So recognizing this, we're taking a comprehensive approach to implement new programs, streamline our processes, and remove obstacles to make it easier for customers to receive assistance, and significantly increase our outreach to increase adoption.
Can I ask for a follow-up after the money is allocated of a by zip code where the money has ultimately been distributed?
Yes, definitely. Okay. Next slide. So first, we're proposing the Low-Income Customer Connections Program. With this new program, we're allocating $15 million to provide additional support for low-income customers. 80,000 customers will be eligible to participate in this program and receive a one-time credit that is equivalent to their outstanding water and power bills. This program will help us in further understanding our customers and realigning our programs and services with our customer needs. Next slide.
George, is this related to the LIHEAP?
No, this is independent of it. This would be a department program. That would be where we're proposing to allocate $15 million for this customer segment, to support this customer segment, by doing some research to better understand our customer base and see how we can further assist.
So essentially,
a little more information about LIHEAP in a moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, so essentially, this is a program that would be utilize to help support through a one-time credit, additional debt reduction for customers who continue to have a balance on their bills, to low-income and lifeline customers who continue to have a balance on their bills after the state monies have been applied, recognizing that the state monies are limited to the pandemic period and would not address arrearages or other outstanding debt that occurred before that period, and doesn't recognize that there are customers who were struggling before the pandemic. So in addition to significantly reducing customer debt through application of the state funds, the department, through this program, which would include some substantial interaction with our customers, would be helping to eliminate debt for this customer segment. And there are approximately 80,000 customers that would be touched by this program.
That's wonderful. Thank you, because that will fill in the gap.
That fills in the gap.
We have also been reviewing our existing programs and incorporating feedback from our customers and from community service providers. Based on this, we're streamlining the enrollment process for the low-income discount program, which is the gateway to several other programs and assistance mechanisms. We're also expanding our payment arrangement program to 48 months for discount customers from the current 24 months, which is double the period, the length it was before the pandemic. This will provide customers the necessary time, we feel, to recover from the pandemic and have a mechanism to slowly reduce their balances. Both changes will be implemented and available to customers next week. Next slide.
One question on that, does that mean that we are allowing our customers to self-certify their income, or just no proof? We are allowing self-certification, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Next.
How are we getting the word out to our customers about this program?
So the outreach efforts are ready and will be launching after this and next through next week, and we're going to be conducting several targeted campaigns to customers that we feel like that would qualify and would benefit from this. So that'll be happening over the next couple of months on a repeated basis.
And I think is Joe Romalo prepared through this presentation or in support of this presentation to talk a little bit about the communications efforts associated with all of this, or should we expect to hear about that later?
There's Commissioner, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. There's some slides on this later in the deck that Georgia will cover, but I can just briefly touch on that now. Customer service will be sending email notifications to every customer who will be receiving a credit and or notifying them via either letter or postcard. We're working on that particular notification now because they have a certain period of time by which to apply those credits. In addition to that, we're going to begin by focusing on a strong campaign to urge customers to sign up for the low-income discount program, since it really acts as a gatekeeper to some of these additional enhanced benefits such as extended repayment, also identifying customers who are low income that need referrals to other agencies. We're working on an overarching campaign that will inform the public, especially in communities that are most in need of these various aspects of this program and how they're coming. We're going to work on that both through paid advertisements as well as social media. Next Monday, actually on November 1st, is really when we kick off the low-income discount program, easy sign-up program, really where we've lowered the barriers to be able to sign up for the low-income discount program.
I have a question, and it has to do with the fact that, from my understanding, some of these people who rent actually pay the owner of the building for the utilities, and that they're, so and I know that people feel that they're taken advantage of and bullied, and you know, there's a lot of issues. These checks will go straight to the actual lessee or renter. They're not going to go to some owners who are claiming, and then you know, not transferring the payment over to the account of the renter.
The state money will go directly into the credited to the customer's account. So whoever the customer is, it will go directly into their account. So don't send a check out to anyone.
Well, so that is I mean, that's where I can.
That's the way the state legislation set it up.
I'm just saying that there's some not very nice building owners who are just going to take the money and still try to charge.
But they never get the money. The money goes against the bill. There's no money exchanging hands. It's being credited directly to the bill.
That's correct.
So whoever is the customer on record receives.
Yes.
The credit.
It just gets applied directly to any outstanding balances in their account covered by in the covered period.
I think the point that Mia is making, but I don't want to speak for her, something probably shared by many of us, that the way that it was set up is not perfect, and there is the ability for some entities to be credited that are maybe bad actors, or may not have transferred the credit to their tenants, or potentially some well-off people who just decided not to pay their bills. But I think the preponderance of the allocation will be ideally towards those really in need and alleviate a lot of the distress that individuals have. That was part of my inquiry around the zip codes, because I think that'll be one of probably many metrics that help us determine how beneficial this really was to those who need it most.
Yeah, understood. And yes, these are ongoing challenges with respect to people interacting with their landlords. But in terms of just the mechanics of this program, this is how the legislature set it up. We can always go back to the legislature next year and see if there's things that we can do to improve that. But at this moment, we have to work with the program, this particular program, as the legislature set it up.
Yeah, I think that there's some question. I mean, I think we just want to keep in mind that we do not want the perfect to become the enemy of the good, and there's probably no ideal way of addressing these issues that make them bulletproof with respect to bad actors. If we could,
if I might just suggest that, because I know that everybody here has worked hard and the state has, put forward a program, and that's all fine. It would be just good to have in the next 3 to 6 months, maybe some contact with some of the renters' rights people that you're maybe comfortable with, who you have relationships with, and just ask, because
we'll do that. That's a great suggestion.
Just ask, do you think everything's going well? And that's all. That's
absolutely. We'll do that. Thank you. That's a great idea. Thank you.
George.
So in terms of level pay, we're also implementing a monthly level pay program that will make it easier for customers to plan their payments and avoid seasonal swings. Right now, it's scheduled to launch in June of next year. The tech team is working very diligently on this. It's very complex, but they're trying everything possible to see if we can move this up sooner. But right now, we're looking at June of 2022. So next slide. There are currently a number of additional programs available to customers. However, we see that communities with the greatest need for these programs have the lowest penetration rates. These are programs such as low-income, the LEHRER program, whose funding has increased significantly, and the Low-Income Housing Water Assistance Program, which will be launching shortly. So So we're making it a priority to ensure our customers are aware of these available dollars and to assist them in applying. Next slide. So as Joe provided some information, we're launching a comprehensive multi-channel communications and outreach campaign next month, right after this. So this will include the targeted campaigns that Joe's mentioned to the customers who would most benefit from these programs. Next slide. So based on this, I'd like to quickly walk through a customer use case to show how this will come together. In this use case, Julia is a low-income customer who rents an apartment with her family. She had some trouble paying her bills before the pandemic, but the pandemic has made it much more difficult. So her arrears have grown from $200 to $1,200. Next slide. So the state relief funds that we're anticipating would cover $1,000 for the pandemic period in this case, and the proposed LADWP Customer Connections Program would cover the remaining $200. Next slide. Now, as many customers recover from the pandemic, there will be times when a bill due date will be missed, and we anticipate this. So in this case, Julie, who misses a bill, has received a number of mailers from us regarding the various programs. And she also hears about these programs from community service providers. So based on this, she calls LADWP, and our CSR listens and understands her situation and provides her with the options available. So based on this, she decides to sign up for a payment arrangement, which our CSR immediately enrolls her in. In addition, she learns how other programs can assist, and with that, we're hoping that she feels that we are able to work with her and that LADWP is there to help. Next slide. So to get there, our teams are going full speed to implement and launch these programs and changes. For the state relief, we're expecting to receive confirmation of the final allocation amounts any day now. And we'll be applying those funds to the accounts by the end of January. This is just dependent on when we receive the funds. The Low-Income Customer Connections Program will launch by the end of January, and the outreach campaigns will start in November, along with the changes to the Low-Income Discount Program and the payment arrangements. And lastly, the Level Pay will be launching next year. Next slide. So with these efforts, we're building on our key message to our customers that LADWP cares. By uplifting all of our customers, we're helping to build a stronger Los Angeles. And this will be incorporated with all our outreach efforts going forward. Any questions that I can answer?
George, thank you for that presentation. At this point, I'd like to introduce or to have queued up the presentation from our friends from Repower LA. And to simply note that this has been a long time coming and has not been easy and has involved or required the support of a literal village of Angelenos, everything from City Hall, policymakers setting a pretty high bar in terms of their insistence that this department respond in a robust way to the needs of our customers, and in particular our customers that have struggled with utility debt. It has also involved the collaboration with CBOs, both in the context of thinking about what would be most meaningful in connection with current efforts, but also in continuing to prod us and to collaborate on with us as we design additional programs and outreach strategies to support vulnerable Angelenos. And I would be remiss were I not to also acknowledge the support and the assistance of labor in connection with outreach to the state to make sure that municipal utilities were treated fairly in the context of the bond. I do not want to in any way discount the countless hours that our staff has spent looking at this staggering issue of both balancing our own books and supporting our community. and the creativity that they have shown, not just, and determination, not just with respect to working in a holistic and collaborative way to secure external resources, but also looking inward to think about how we might operate differently and putting our money where our mouth is in terms of committing our own resources to assist with this, significant issue of concern. So it is only fitting that this presentation also include the authentic and the voices of Commissioner Lehr, those folks out there in the community who are doing this work and who are in touch with individuals who benefit from these efforts. With that, I will turn this over to Repower LA, and Mr. Cabrera, you can kick it off.
Thank you, Board President, and good morning, Commissioners. My name is Agustin Cabrera. I'm the Director of Repower LA with the LA Alliance for a New Economy. I want to start off by saying thank you for giving us the opportunity to present today and for the actions and proposals you all have made at today's board meeting. I have the privilege to introduce our coalition partners who will be presenting the stories of Angelenos and their priorities on debt relief and energy affordability. But before I hand it over to my colleagues Cameron and Tiffany, I want to start by underscoring the Council President's comments earlier about the need for systemic change and support the motion they put forward. As you'll hear in this presentation, and as Board President McCLAIN-HILL mentioned, it took a lot of collaboration and communication between advocates, DWP staff, and our labor partners to secure real relief for customers who have been burdened by energy and water debt. So thank you to Board President McCLAIN-HILL for your bold leadership on debt relief, to the entire Board of Commissioners, and the DWP Legislative Affairs, Customer Service, and Communication teams. Thank you to all the community leaders who shared their stories, advocates, organizers, and our labor partners, IBEW Local 18, for working tirelessly to uplift the stories of Angelenos and make sure municipally owned utilities were given proportional relief. And lastly, in addition to our support of Item 8, which is now the longest extension utility shutoff extension in the country, I want to show my support for Item 7. CAMR and HYPE are incredibly important programs that will help low-income customers save money on their bills, support high-quality union jobs, and are crucial to achieve energy equity. So thank you again, and without further ado, I hand it over to my colleague, Cameron.
Good morning. Thank you for the introduction, Augustine, and thank you all so much for the time that we have to speak about this incredibly urgent, central topic of utility debt. My name is Cameron Hurd, and I'm a community organizer at Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy, or LANE, and I'm joined by Tiffany Wong from Strategic Concepts in Organizing Policy Education, SCOPE, and we're speaking on behalf of the Repower LA Coalition. Now, before we start our presentation that'll walk you through a lot of the work we've been able to accomplish in our recommendations, we'd like to actually present a short video from a Wilmington community member, Dulce Altamirano. And this is a video from the summer. It's in Spanish with English subtitles, and it's going to walk you through Dulce's story. So, thank you.
Mi nombre es Dulce Altamirano y resido aquí en Wilmington y tengo más de 25 años aquí viviendo. Soy directora ejecutiva de OSCF, Organización de Servicios Comunitarios Familiares. Es muy buena idea de los 2,000 millones, siguiera así, que sea equitativo para todos. Y que no se hiciera nada más esta vez, que siguiera la lucha para ayudar a la comunidad. Pienso que es muy importante más ahora en tiempos de pandemia, porque muchas personas perdieron sus trabajos y otros hasta sus hogares. Creo que sí les va a ayudar, especialmente si tienen niños chiquitos, bebés, mujeres embarazadas, pero pandemia o no pandemia, siempre hay una necesidad. Y cuando a mí me cortaron la luz, no había pandemia. Eso fue hace 4 años. Lo primero que hicieron mis hijos de salir, dice, mami, Dice, se fue la luz. Dice, pero todos tienen luz menos nosotros. Me sentí sola, con miedo y vergüenza. Para mí, en ese momento fue muy humillante. Eso es una palabra grande, fue muy humillante. Es feo, ¿verdad? Como adulto, pero cuando hay niños chiquitos es peor. Pero nos enseña y agarramos experiencia para que lo compartamos y digamos a las personas que no, eso no tiene que pasar. Y así es, te puedo ayudar a la gente. Y a que luchen por sus derechos, que no, nunca nos tenemos que quedar callados. El protestar no es un privilegio, es un derecho que tenemos como ser humano y desde que nacimos con ese derecho. Y ese derecho es mundial. El Estado dedicó 2,000 millones para borrar la deuda de servicios públicos y ahora estamos exigiendo que LA City use sus recursos para servir a los angelinos más vulnerables.
Dulce is a proud community member in Wilmington. She's a fighter for justice, and she's a ratepayer as well. She talked about the terrible and humiliating feeling of having her, lights shut off, the power shut off, how that affected her children, and what needs to be done, which is so important. So Dulce's story is a powerful one, and it's one that shows the deep urgency of utility debt relief and of preventing shutoffs. And now Tiffany and I will be building from this story to show why and how Repower LA has been fighting to erase utility debt and prevent shutoffs on a path towards sustainable and systemic change. So on the next slide, we'll tell you a little bit more about Repower LA. So Repower LA is a coalition of 30 plus environmental, labor, and community organizations that are dedicated to climate and economic justice. So since 2011, Repower LA has been fighting for affordable rates, for clean energy, and family-sustaining careers at LADWP for historically underdeveloped communities. And through the pandemic, we have continuously fought for utility debt forgiveness and bill stabilization, as many Angelinos were required to stay home without utility debt relief, and people have been suffering from job loss, family loss, and so much more. So you can see some of the organizations, and there's plenty more that did not fit on the screen. So next slide. I'll go ahead and pass to Tiffany.
Thank you, Cameron, and good morning, everyone. So as shown on this slide, many of our organizations have worked with DWP through the years, providing outreach on programs, assisting community members with applications, holding space for discussion, community discussions, and participating in stakeholder meetings. We've provided support through the Empower program and with LADWP Cares to ensure low-income communities of color can access utility resources for debt relief, healthier homes, and clean transportation. And for SCOPE, our members play a big part in reaching out in their own South LA community as well. For example, SCOPE members shown in the photo on the right have been longtime outreach workers on the Commercial Direct Install program. And so while we celebrate the work that we've been able to accomplish with DWP together, there remains more to be done for community-based organizations and residents themselves to have a real seat at the table and ensure that these programs, policies, and our publicly owned utility at large serves our most vulnerable communities. Next slide, please. And so this is why Repower LA centers energy democracy, people in communities having the right to control and participate in their energy future. This means transparency, accountability to, and partnership with community members. So ratepayers who have been struggling with utility bills and accessing programs are heard and are empowered to create solutions. It looks like building the pipeline into family-sustaining union jobs at the utility. So community members like our CDI outreach team can have real opportunities to become full-time DWP workers. It also means utility investments that prioritize and protect low-income communities, so they're not left behind and overburdened by the clean energy transition. Next slide, please. And a critical part of realizing this vision is utility debt relief and addressing our affordability crisis. Our communities have borne the brunt of the COVID pandemic and are still having to make dangerous trade-offs between food, housing, utilities, and other expenses. We have scope members with debts as high as $16,000 at no fault of their own. They're terrified when they see DWP trucks come down their streets, thinking they'll have their utilities shut off. And they're similarly fearful of when the moratorium will end. Despite these situations, they remain powerful advocates, sharing their stories, organizing neighbors, and demanding action from decision makers. And so we need to end this punitive utility model and allow people to live with dignity. Investments in long-term resiliency, access to jobs, and dismantling structural inequities will help community members thrive. And I'll pass it back to Cameron.
Yes, next slide, please. Thank you, Tiffany. And here I want to really emphasize the incredible success that the Repower LA Coalition has helped to push for. And this couldn't have been possible without our powerful coalition members and the leadership of the board. So two of the main things that we want to highlight is the Utility Grant Assistance Program as one, which is where we won $38 million in COVID-19 relief funds to create Utility Grant Assistance Program at LADWP in November 2020. So this meant $500 checks for over 67,000 working families at the last time that I counted. And this was thanks to the hard work of organizing and advocacy and the collaboration of LADWP that people were able to go into the end of the year with a bit of relief. But we decided that we had to continue to push. $500 meant a lot to working families, but there's so much more that can be achieved. And we continued our push, working with LADWP staff closely to win $2 billion in the statewide utility debt relief budget through AB 135 and AB 148. And this victory couldn't have been possible without that same collaboration with community members, advocates, IBW Local 18, and LADWP board and staff. DWP staff and our coalition partners coordinated our advocacy efforts to underscore the need for this relief from the state budget. And this collaboration was necessary to secure the funding and ensure equitable program design. And we want to ensure similar coordination for future equity-based initiatives and policies, which is what we're going to discuss on the next slide a bit more. So after so many discussions with our community, so many times that we've gotten to hear and experience what this pandemic has put people through, we have several things that our community demands. One is the extension of the moratorium and water power shutoffs to ensure the health and safety of our communities. And I want to add that we appreciate your vote to extend the moratorium to March 2022, making this the longest moratorium on shutoffs in the country, as has been said earlier. And we're looking forward to working with you to let the community know more about this extension so that communities can make the best decisions as far as managing their funds. No family should go into 2022 worried about the burdens of utility debt, so thank you for this bold action. The second point is we would like to see more funds allocated for debt relief not covered by the statewide allocation, particularly with focus on the Lifeline and low-income discount participants. And this has always been a priority of ours, and we're also pleased to see that the Low-Income Customer Connections Program will launch soon. And we hope to see this continued support for people even after these programs have been launched to really cover every single bit of debt that we can. Third, we would like to see the expedited rollout of long-term affordability measures like monthly billing, level pay plans, and so much more that can be done. So we're pleased to see that level pay will be implemented to avoid these seasonal swings. And we'd like to work with you all to see if this process could be launched sooner since the community is in really severe need of these sorts of things. Fourth, we would like to improve customer service and outreach, particularly with focus on communities of color who are disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. So that includes camera and hype, which of course have been in the discussion today and will continue to be. And we encourage these energy efficiency programs that come at no cost to customers and decrease the demand on the energy grid. And these programs can be incredibly successful with targeted outreach and consistent reporting through equity metrics. Lastly, we would very much support investment into making frontline communities aware of debt relief shutoff protections. The digital divide and language barriers that our community partner, Rosalind, raised earlier are two really clear examples, but overall, we have to make sure that when programs are launched, when extensions are done, we make sure that the full weight of communications goes toward it. And on the next slide, we'd like to wrap up the presentation. Our contact information is on the screen. And on behalf of the Repower LA Coalition, I want to thank you for your time, but seriously encourage the board to take decisive, clear action that supports frontline and working class communities, particularly the Black and Brown communities so often left behind. We need these recommendations, these community demands to be implemented, because communities are still hurting, still suffering, and we can't go forward into 2022 with the stress and anxiety of shutoffs and increasing debt burdens. 2022 can't be the year when the lights go out and the water turns off for our communities. So we call on you to continue implementing the measures needed in collaboration with the Repower LA Coalition. We encourage continued collaboration so that Los Angeles can truly recover and thrive. Thank you so much. That ends the presentation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Are there additional questions or comments by members of the board?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I would like to invite you and your group to come to our Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils, because we have some very active members from Panorama City, Arleta, Pacoima, Canoga Park, and Reseda, who I'm sure would benefit from these programs, but may not know about them. And if you would like to come, we meet the second Thursday of the month, and right now it's virtual. So if you could let me know if you're available and you would like to come, I would love to have you there to let those communities know what's available from DWP. And I appreciate your presentation. It was very thorough and really made a lot of sense to me, and I'm appreciative of that. So I hope that I'll see you again.
Thank you. And David, if you could make sure that the commissioner and Repower are connected after the meeting so that she can follow up and they can follow up with this invitation, that would be terrific. Commissioner Reyes.
Thank you so much to both our LADWP team and to Repower LA. The presentation really shed light on the need for a longer-term action and a plan that we should prioritize to make safe, reliable water and power affordable for all. And I just want to emphasize that the implementation of all these ideas will be key. And I personally, having served as a low-income customer assistance program director in the past, will be keeping a keen eye on those implementation. I want to also see on the technology side, what we can do to ease the burden for people to be able to apply online. We're talking about streamlining our processes. What does that look like? How can we help? There's obviously a digital divide. And if there is additional resources that we can use within the city, for example, I know the Bureau of Street Lights has come up with some ideas on bridging that digital divide that we can probably partner with them so that the low-income communities will have that access. And then the third is that I am really proud and inspired by the energy democracy concept that really hits home for our low-income customers, that they should have a say, that they should be able to control, and that they should be able to manage their energy usage with cooperation from us as the biggest utility in the nation. I think it is our responsibility to all our ratepayers to see to it that the program, especially on the low-income discount program, is revisited. Because we do have some barriers that we've been pushing for the longest time, and all that we're being told is it can't be done, it can't be done. I want to see it done finally. And then lastly, the share project, or the project share that I've been pushing for the longest time as a way for customers to be able to donate on their utility bill itself if they have the extra resources, because those monies can also help fill the gap for emergency assistance for customers who may need it, and they're not falling within the low-income eligibility provisions. So thank you, everyone. Your ideas are so enlightening. I really look forward to implementing more of it and really moving the needle on our goal to make access to financial assistance more reliable and consistent throughout the department and for our millions of customers. Thank you.
Any additional comments or questions?
I just want to thank Cameron Hurt and Tiffany Wong for coming to present to us. It is, I couldn't say anything more than Commissioner Reyes just said, other than you're an inspiration. The fact that we have a next generation of young people who are so committed and so well-spoken and educated, you've moved me. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Lair. And I can only say that I got to meet them, or have been able to meet and interact with these young people in a different context. And so that is the only reason that I am not teared up at this moment as well. And it does just really underscore the ongoing commitment from so many to support and to partner and collaborate with each other for the good, and for that I'm grateful. We want all of our customers who've struggled to pay their electric and water bills during the COVID-19 pandemic, and those who struggle every day to make ends meet, to know that help is on the way. No one should live under the stress-inducing day-to-day threat of having their utilities shut off because their DWP bills accumulated while they were effectively severed from their livelihoods by a pandemic, or otherwise laboring under difficult circumstances. By partnering with our state and local nonprofit partners and officials, we're going to ensure that every qualified customer receives the financial assistance that they need to help relieve the utility burden that they've been bearing for many months while trying to keep food on the table. Today, we send a message as this city's utility that by uplifting our most vulnerable residents, we are truly helping to build a stronger, more prosperous and equitable Los Angeles. When we say LADWP cares, we want you to know by our actions taken today that we mean it. So with that, if there's nothing else, I very much appreciate both the presentation of staff and the presentation of our community partners, and look forward to our continued efforts to support and uplift this customer base. Thank you so much. Dr. Pickle.
I have a small addition addressing your continued efforts.
Yes, sir.
This is an extraordinary effort and an extraordinary program that pulls together state, federal, and city and DWP resources reflecting the urgency of the situation. The challenge is the implementation requires contact and outreach that's extraordinary as well. We're stepping that up, but we haven't had a circumstance like this in 100 years, and we may need to tweak things or even overhaul things midstream. And one of the challenges for governmental entities, including DWP, is it is very difficult to hire or contract on an expedited basis. And so we may need help from the board and others with that as we move forward. So we can't say this is one and done. We need to monitor progress, and there will be times and places where we will need help, maybe even urgent help to accomplish this.
Dr. Pickle, thank you for that comment, and I will ensure that we have a report back in the very near term, both on the communications and other efforts to advance these programs and these and this direction, along with the metrics by which we will be following and measuring our actual impact. So thank you for that. Thank you again to staff for your efforts. And it is now noon. We have another presentation and then an item to take up and close session. Might now be a good time for a quick, 20-minute break. Does that work for the participants? Looks like it. So why don't we plan to be back? We will recess for 20 minutes, and we should plan to be back at 12:20, if that's okay. Mr. Brevich.
At this point, we will recess and resume at 12:20. We are in recess.
Please remain silent while all mics are turned off. Thank you. Commissioner Lehrer?
Present.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady? 3 members present in a quorum.
Thank you so much. We will now move to presentation to item I2, presentation regarding energy storage.
So for this item, we will have Jason Rondu, our Director of Resource Planning, Development, and Programs, introduce and lead in for a presentation by Ashkan Nasiri.
All right, thank you, Reiko, and thank you, commissioners. So continuing on with the series of presentations that we have provided that is closely related to the strategic long-term resource plan, that is our power plan that's currently under development, we're giving a presentation on energy storage today. So I'm joined by Ashkan Nasiri, who's the Manager of Distributed Resource Planning, and he's going to walk us through this. Just to kind of level set before we jump into that, as this board is aware, we did present an overview of the strategic long-term resource plan at our last board meeting, as well as the integrated human resource plan. We also did a overview on electric vehicles, and these subject matter deep dives are really important for us as we go down the road of our strategic long-term plan. It's currently under development now, and early next year we will be presenting a recommendation to this board. So these subject matter deep dives help keep these subjects top of mind, and also helps make sure that we have the latest information and we're best informed when we ultimately adopt a path forward for 100% renewable energy. So with that, I'd like to hand it to Ashkan Nasiri to walk us through the slides.
Thank you, Jason and Reiko, for the introduction. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Ashkan Nasiri, Manager of DR Planning with Resource Planning, Development, and Program Division. I start the presentation by looking at our energy storage goals, following with energy storage technologies and related applications, looking at our planning guidelines, studies, and accomplishments to date, with some of the upcoming projects that we are very excited about to share with you, and then concluding the presentation with our latest efforts in battery recycling. Next slide, please. After 3.5 years of modeling the entire power system and working closely with our advisory group, the result of LA100 study was released in March of this year. We learned that 100% renewable energy is achievable for the power system through several pathways with different timelines and resources. Also, Mayor Garcetti and the City Council have tasked the department with goal of reaching 100% carbon-free by 2035, a full 10 years ahead of the state goal with an intermediate milestone of 80% renewable energy by 2030. And that highlights the need for rapid expansion of renewable resources procurement, which creates the need for even more and earlier deployment of energy storage. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, LA100 identified several pathways to achieve a 100% renewable system. Also, it found that many resources are common for the first 80 to 90%, as depicted on this slide. As we accelerate procurement of renewable resources like solar and wind, there will be greater need for energy storage in order to reduce curtailment of renewable resources and to meet energy mismatch between generation and consumption. The short duration is used to shift energy, short duration energy storage is used to shift energy mainly from solar to evening hours to address diurnal mismatch between resource and demand, which is the main focus of this presentation. LA100, next, just one space, okay. Thank you. LA100 identified the need for more than 2,600 megawatts of storage by 2045. Next slide, please. Based on the CGLA plan that was presented to the board in May of this year by our director, Jason Rondo, Power System is planning to build over 1,000 megawatts of energy storage by end of this decade, which will include behind-the-meter storage, utility-scale energy storage at our facilities, and pairing of energy storage with future utility solar projects. And our 2022 SLTRP process, which is ongoing, will provide more details on timing, size, location, and other attributes for storage assets. Next slide, please. There are many reasons why the future power system need energy storage. It can help with grid reliability by fulfilling frequency response obligation, frequency following, voltage stability. As I mentioned earlier, it helps to lower curtailment of renewable resources by storing energy when the load is low and dispatch them when needed or in the evening hours when renewable resources like solar are not available, and essentially making renewable resources dispatchable. Eland Solar and Storage Project, which was approved by the board in September of 2019, capable of storing about 1,100 megawatt hour of renewable energy, is a prime example for this application. It can potentially help with postponing the upgrades on distribution system if located at optimal sites based on the system need. That's something that NREL looked at when they were analyzing our distribution system, and we continue to dive deeper internally as we develop our first ever distributed resource plan. On the next slide, we look at different technologies that suit some of these applications. There are various types of energy storage technologies, from chemically activated batteries to thermal and mechanical storage. Based on the power system needs that we saw in the last slide, it becomes important to understand different technologies and pertinent applications. For example, due to the fast response time, lithium-ion batteries are prime candidates for providing grid stability duties, such as frequency following or voltage stabilities. Other forms of electrochemical storage, like flow batteries, could be good candidate for resource adequacy, an application where multiple cycle charge and discharge in a day is needed, since the flow battery does not degrade due to battery cycling... 'Next slide. As we gain more experience in energy storage, our planning guidelines evolve. We can summarize our energy storage planning at this point into 3 main steps. First, we identify the system needs and where we can alleviate a problem by developing energy storage, whether it's to reduce curtailment, postpone upgrade, or provide grid stability. Then we perform feasibility and cost analysis and identify the right storage technology. For example, considering alternative solution for dense communities or school with safety in mind. And that's why we are very active in evaluating and piloting new and emerging technologies. We are also taking into account external factors such as regulatory and safety development, price projections, and end-of-life application, and environmental considerations such as potential CEQA challenges or others. Next slide, please. In addition to the case-by-case studies for projects, we have been active in understanding system behavior and effects on reliability as we transition the power system to more renewable resources. To that end, DWP has conducted a number of studies, and some have been in response to Senate and Assembly bills. In 2016, with the help of DNVGL, we conducted the MGREP, Maximum Generation Renewable Energy Penetration Study, to understand what dispatchable resources are needed to respond to loss of renewable generation and cope with intermittency. That study considered 50% RPS. And now, a little over 5 years later, we have doubled our goal and looking at 100%. In 2017, SB 801 requested utilities to study viability, effectiveness, and cost benefit of energy storage and implement the system if it proved to be beneficial. With the help of EPRI, Electric Power Research Institute, we conducted studies, and the result was pairing of about 300 megawatt of energy storage for Eland Solar and storage projects. We also look at various in-basin facilities, mainly our generating station, to understand the hosting capacity for energy storage at these nodes by looking at parameters like charging limitation due to transmission line availability and equipment rating, and other electrical attributes such as short circuit duty. We also work with EPRI again on voltage upgrade study to determine the optimal distribution system voltage to accommodate new electrification, energy storage, and to address overload circuits, distribution circuits. We have commissioned many studies to better understand how to deploy energy storage in DWP territory as we transform our power system. Most recent study, the LA100 and 2022 SLTRP, will guide us to meet our renewable goals and to determine our optimal resource stack to maintain reliability and keep costs under control. Next slide, please. We also look at adding pumping capability to Hoover generating facility to increase energy generation. As one pathway to help decarbonize power generation, we propose to convert the existing Hoover hydropower generation to a hydro pump storage system similar to Castaic Power Plant. The proposal called for designing and constructing a water conveyance system for pumping water from Lake Mojave, as you see on the lower right of the screen, during period of excess renewable energy to Lake Mead, showing left middle of the screen, for storage and subsequent power generation. Additional power from the stored water would be generated through existing turbines. So we are not adding capacity. We're just making the generation duration longer without disrupting Hoover's water delivery obligations. DWP commissioned HDR Engineering, E3, and Santec Engineering to assist in economic and engineering feasibility of this study. Results from the study revealed that the net present value of benefits are significantly outweighed by capital cost of this project. So DWP is considering other hydro pump storage that may yield greater economic benefits at this point. Next slide, please. We are also looking at unlocking energy storage potential in form of renewable hydrogen, IPP in Utah. The IPA and DWP are pursuing to take advantage of IPP's strategic location in Delta, Utah, available resources like water rights, transmission infrastructure, skilled labor force, vicinity to salt cavern for storage of hydrogen, green hydrogen, and proximity to renewable resources to build a hydrogen production and storage facility to support clean power generation. On the next slide, we look at some of our accomplishments to date. On the left, top left, you see a picture of Beacon Energy Storage Facility. It's a 20 megawatt lithium ion battery with half an hour duration, mainly used for regulatory and compliance, and is located in Mojave, close to other facilities like Barren Ridge and Pine Tree Wind Farm. The next picture, JFB Flow BESS. It's a pilot project located at our headquarters, JFB. It's by the entrance of the B level parking from the Temple side, Temple Street. This project was to conduct a study with EPRI again to understand the flow technology, especially in comparison with lithium ion. A comprehensive report by EPRI will be available by December of this year. We also had a microgrid system at Fire Station 28, which has a solar rooftop and a 20 kW battery system, which is meant for emergency. And interestingly enough, shortly after installation, a couple of weeks after, there was an outage due to heavy rain, and the battery system installed at Fire Station 28 was essential in keeping the station online. We have also installed different brand batteries at our Truesdale facility for the purpose of training our ESMs. Another example is the battery system installed at LEHRER for the purpose of demand reduction and showcasing the technology. One of the more exciting projects, Springbok 3, it's with the help of EPRI, 8-Minute, and DWP, we are trying to mimic attributes of thermal assets, such as dispatchability with inverter-based control, which is extremely important for operation, and it's super exciting for engineers. Basically knowing the solar forecast, we want to be able to mimic ramping up and down of a solar facility, similar to what we can do with the thermal units, instead of intermittent interruption in renewable generation. And that allows us to ramp up and down other resources to account for this quick change. Next slide, please. On the planning, we are planning to deploy about 360 megawatts of in-basin and 680 megawatts of out-of-basin energy storage. Most of our out-of-basin storage will be in form of paired storage with renewable resources, similar to Elan project. We also have a rolling RFP for standalone energy storage that we are continuously monitoring. We are looking to deploy roughly 310 megawatts of storage at our in-basin facilities and about 50 megawatts of behind-the-meter batteries. Again, the 2022 SLTRP will provide more details on location, size, timing, and other attributes for these assets. Next slide, please. We are looking at a 25 megawatt non-battery long duration storage, and that's about 6 to 10 hours through an asset purchase agreement at Beacon. This technology came through our rolling RFP for standalone energy storage, and it's really exciting for us as it allows us to explore non-battery alternatives for storage. For that specific project, we're also talking to CEC, Governor's Office, and DOE to secure funding. Eland Solar and Storage Project, along with 2 other solar PPAs currently under negotiation, will make up the rest of the out-of-basin energy storage goal of 680 megawatts. Next, please. Some of the upcoming projects, we are planning to deploy energy storage along with solar generation at city-owned facility, basically creating a microgrid. One example would be the Green Meadow Resiliency Project and the LA Zoo, which have solar generation paired with energy storage and EV charging. And in case of Green Meadow, it will be a cooling center as well. We are also in talks with General Services Department to unlock potential for installing solar and storage on other city properties. We are also looking at deploying energy storage at LAX and other sister departments. Next, please. Before concluding our presentation, I'd like to briefly cover some updates on what we have been doing in terms of battery recycling. I know it was an interest to our board in the past. DWP partnered with EPRI on battery recycling and disposal study with a focus on process, regulations, cost, and economics recycling. The end of life and alternate application for batteries will become very essential as DWP is planning to install approximately 1,000 megawatts of energy storage by end of this decade. EPRI's study looked at some of the key utility and industry drivers for the end of life consideration. Material supply to keep up with the needed scale and demand sit on top, which requires safe and cost-effective recovery of essential materials from the spent batteries, in addition to mining new material. Then there's a timing between manufacturing and end of life, which requires reverse supply chain infrastructure to be built now. And also, the study found that the logistic and design of future batteries to be optimized for material recovery is very important. As we know, utility scale batteries is fairly new, and battery recycling is evolving with a very few established players at this time and new ones joining. EPRI also looked at the existing battery recycling process, as we can see on the next slide. Today, there are 2 recycling methods for batteries. One uses solvent, and one is heat-based process to extract essential materials. Typical recycling process start by crushing the batteries to separate various components mechanically. Then either use of heat or chemical solvent is employed to recover essential materials, such as precious metals and alloys like cobalt, copper, and nickel. Some of the unwanted byproducts are plastic, slag, waste gas, and some of these waste gas can be extremely toxic. There are pros and cons to each of these processes. In the solvent-based approach, the good thing is the solvent can be reused multiple times, and there are established industrial steps. However, the process depends on the battery chemistry. Additional refining step may be needed. and often some caustic chemicals that can burn or corrode are being utilized. On the other side, the heat-based approach, it can handle larger format battery cells. The good thing is there are industrial processes from metal industry. However, it involves crushing and mixing the battery cells and modules at extreme temperatures, which can cause safety issues if not automated. There are fumes associated with this process that requires scrubbing. There is a burn off of graphite components, basically carbon. And lastly, a lot of thermal energy is needed. To provide a cost perspective for recycling, I use Beacon Energy Storage, which is a 10 megawatt 1 hour system. It weighs about 380,000 pounds. And in our contract, we have allocated about 1.2 million for recycling of this asset at the end of its life. In addition, some of the cost component, in addition to recycling, is basically on-site dismantling and packaging of the battery system for shipment and also transportation. Again, these battery cells weigh a lot. Next slide, please. So as we continue to add more details to our energy storage planning and identify appropriate projects, as we learned from the result of 2022 SLTRP, we also continue evaluating new energy storage technologies and projects as we receive them through our rolling energy storage RFP. We are also engaged in conversation with DOE Office of Electricity, CEC, the Governor's Office to secure federal and state grants and get access to low-cost federal loans. And lastly, we are evaluating the needed workforce for development, construction, operation, and maintenance of energy storage system under the IHRP lens. I believe this is my last slide, and I want to thank the commissioners and the public for your time and attention. I would be happy to answer any question you might have.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners?
Nobody was there.
I'm sorry?
What?
Okay. Seeing none, I do have at least one question, and that is, in your presentation at the top, you made reference to the additional cost associated with the LA 100 implementation of LA 100, and you underline, and it's underlined every time, it's in addition to existing PSRP obligations. So I'm curious as to the relationship between PSRP and the work that we're doing on a sort of day in and day out basis, and the implementation of LA 100, and in particular how it aligns to both the import of renewables and also things like, to your point, we discussed our EV infrastructure previously. So could somebody sort of begin to connect the dots there? Because I'm also interested in whether our progress with respect to PSRP is significantly robust for all of this to begin to come together. And if it isn't, when do we expect that it will be?
So, Commissioner, if I may field that question, and if there are others that would like to add, to emphasize how important PSRP, and for those who are not familiar with that, is the Power System Reliability Program that addresses our distribution system, and in many cases deferred maintenance and deferred upgrades on the distribution system. That is really fundamental to the delivery of our power and our core business. But it's also really fundamental to the success of our LA 100 effort. And the relationship really, it has to do with not just reliability, not just ensuring that as we transition here, that we continue to provide reliable power, especially in high heat days, on days where we have storms like we had yesterday and so on. But it also means the key to affordability. So in the previous bullet, you see building and transportation electrification as key to affordability. We need to see building and transportation electrification grow at the rates that we are targeting and that we're incentivizing. And to do that, to be able to deliver that power and to support that, we also need to ensure that we build out a robust enough distribution system. And so through that, we know that with the LA100 study, there are many key common areas of investment, and PSRP, our distribution system upgrades, is one of them. So we're in the process now of revising our metrics and ensuring that we are targeting our budgets and our staffing in order to match the distribution upgrades that we need to have in order to support them. That will be part of the SLTRP, and that will also be part of the integrated human resource planning. And to just finish the comment, so that there's no uncertain terms, that is really fundamental to the success of our overall transition because it is key to reliability and affordability.
Thank you for that. Or at least, yes, we've sat through a number of presentations regarding PSRP, and they've been a lot like, any number of our other presentations where it's just, well, we've managed to do this, we managed to do that, we managed to do whatever. I can't imagine that we actually need a study to tell us, where we are with respect to achieving the goals that we, hitting the metrics that we need to hit in order to make a strong dent with respect to just the fundamental upgrades and maintenance and support of our, just general system grid reliability, or the PSRP, or even staffing. And so I suspect that we will be a lot more refined in our analysis at the end of the current study, but not that we are relying on that at this moment to tell us where we are in terms of implementation of that program. So I am just curious as to, are we, as to our current operations, how well are they aligned to support the goals that we have established for ourselves through 2035, both in terms of the pace and the staffing associated with the current PSRP effort?
So you're absolutely right. We do not need to complete the SLTRP or any other study to make significant progress or improvements in progress in areas that we know that we are deficient. PSRP being one of those areas. So we're concurrently going through the process of updating targets and metrics, as I mentioned, and that it also includes updating budgets and updating staffing requirements to do that. In terms of when we expect to have those updated metrics and when we expect to have significant progress around updating budgets and updating staffing, I do not have that information, but we can certainly report back at a future board date.
Can we have that report back by the first of the year?
I don't have any objections to that, Reiko. Any feedback from you?
Yeah, I think during the budget process, they're going through that right now. One of the challenges we had is for a number of years, rate increases were not going into deregulation. Rate increases just didn't happen. So when Jason mentions deferred maintenance, that became an issue because we have the PSRP program now, and for replacement of various components of our system that are 60, 70 years old. If you have a replacement, adding the replacement program we have now that may put you on a 70-year replacement cycle for an estimated life of an asset for 30 years, that isn't sufficient. So we're going through the process of understanding the different components. What is the current replacement cycle, and how do we align the replacement cycles with the estimated life of those assets, so that we do truly not only upgrade the system, but also ensure that it's sufficient to handle the additional loads that are coming with electrification. And that means adding distributing stations and receiving stations. We've gone a number of years without adding any of those, and we're going to have, and it's not for lack of trying, we have a number of those that have been in the hopper, and for whatever reason, NIMBYism or politics, we have not been able to get meaningful traction to replace and upgrade those stations that are needed.
A couple of things. So, I've been in a number of conversations around these issues, and you mentioned rates. It's my understanding, I don't know, Dr. Pickle or Camden, maybe you can help me out here with respect to the PSRP work. Does that require any adjustment to our current rates, or is that work that can be done, is that a pass-through, or how is that? Just because I'm curious about what the constraints have been, because, a number of these things aren't going to disappear with the snap of a finger. So we have to be clear in identifying whatever our constraints are so that we can understand what will need to be addressed in order for us to be able to deliver on all of the things that we continue to refer to and to outline here. So is there a rate constraint with respect to our current rate, and just that has to be addressed in the rate case moving forward, or is this something, can this work be accomplished under our current rate structure?
Much of this work can be accomplished under our current rates. A common issue are staffing constraints and the need to add staff to do the combination of wildfire work, wildfire investment, new business, and PSRP work.
Okay, so these are just known factors, right? That we've got to work through, accommodate, build an appropriate staffing model around, and then move aggressively to address. And I think at our last board meeting, we talked a little bit about, staffing and the need to overcome any number of challenges with respect to getting right-sized on staff. Reiko, you made mention of politics, NIMBYism, et cetera. Again, I'm going to simply say that the city that we live in has not changed. The neighborhoods that we work in are what they are. So I have real heartburn talking without being very clear about how we are going to implement, and that includes just embracing and addressing head-on the things that we have to address and making it plain to all of the stakeholders in this process what those things are so that we can get their support to move forward. I would suggest that Power System be prepared in January to work to present on PSRP, both where we are, what we are currently doing, what the current staffing is, where we are in the current you're talking about next year's budget. We're about halfway through this year's budget, so I just want to revisit and re-understand or reacquaint myself with what is occurring in the context of how it supports or how it is aligned to our work or our ambitions around LA 100. And I think that it is critical that we not only look at in bite sizes, and thank you, Jason, for these updates in digestible forms, but not only important that we look at various aspects of this work, future work in bite sizes, but that we stay very grounded in our current work, our current configuration, and our current activities, and how that is either aligned to or not the achievement of our future ambitions. And I would just like to, on that note, just say, this is in our face every minute of every day. I think I picked up or looked at the New York Times maybe I think today, maybe yesterday, and saw that Hertz made a major purchase for its fleets of Teslas, which simply underscores the degree to which the world is shifting and shifting fast. It takes us right back to our EV infrastructure and the need to quickly achieve both building and transportation electrification as a key to affordability. When you've got, a veritable rental car company diving in with a major purchase so large that it immediately enhanced the value of the enterprise, that being Tesla, of electric vehicles, it's a pretty good indication of what future penetration is expected to be. And we are well behind in terms of shifting and capitalizing and being prepared to accommodate what's coming. So those are my comments. So plan for January. Commissioner Reyes?
My concern, and I would like to pose this question to our general manager, is on the supply chain worries, right? In general, and focusing it on the lithium-ion batteries because it's the preferred solution for powering these emerging technologies, all of which, put pressure on large producers of batteries, including the likes of Tesla, who recently expressed concerns also about potential future mineral and metal shortages. How are we addressing that? Are we ahead of the pack? What are we thinking about?
I know that REYES staff can probably answer a little more thoroughly on this, but yes, we are aware of this. I think in I believe it was Dennis's presentation last board meeting, we talked about risks and risks associated with meeting our goals, and supply chain is absolutely one of them. And in terms of what we have to do, besides just batteries, it's also some of the large scale infrastructure, transformers and other things that we need to do. Everything that we're dealing with is on a very large scale, and products are mostly imported. There's a lot of issues with that, and of course, there's a lot of competition right now for those same products. And as electrification takes place, across the nation more, there'll be continued pressure on that. Reiko, do you have any more specific information? I know that you and Aaron have talked, and your staff and Aaron have talked about these issues and how we address them to make sure that we have the materials that we need to electrify in the future.
I'm not sure if Simon is on. He runs the supply issues contracting for power system, and I know he's done a deep dive into our contracts, our existing contracts, where we feel there could be supply chain shortages. He's lined up additional contractors and increased some of the purchasing ability through either GM contracts where possible, to ensure that if we do have a shortage from one, that there's a backup supplier. I was trying to look and see if Simon is on here to see if he has it. He's not. Okay, yeah.
Reiko, I could also just add that our power plan this year, we're expanding to examine factors out of our control, supply chain being one of them. And when I say supply chain, I don't necessarily mean our internal procurement process.
Right.
I mean the issues that Commissioner Reyes has rightfully flagged as risks for us that are out of our control, where on the mining side, should there be consolidation, that adds more risk. Should there be issues around environmental concerns with mining, human rights issues related to mining, and many, many other issues that are several degrees separated from us, but could impact us. We're currently in the process of scoping out the various risks that we are going to need to look at. Some of those we'll have the capability in-house to look at. Other risks we may need to bring on folks that are experts in supply chain, whether it's for batteries or for other technologies that we're going to be counting on or planning for. And it gets back to the importance of understanding where those risks are and what our plans are should those risks manifest themselves. So that is intended to be part of our power plan. Again, we're scoping out this risk, the supply chain for batteries, but also other risks as well.
And hopefully some of the work like our flow battery pilot and work into other battery configurations and designs might take some of the pressure off lithium that we see right now and maybe provide us some other options. But at this point, there's nothing that's really firmed up in that arena.
Good. I just want us to be mindful and just really take a look at that, revisit that, plan something that we are steps ahead so that we don't have that threats, that we face them head on as Jason is articulating. There are changes and they can be very fluid and we may not be expecting, but with a keen eye on those risks, we should be able to meet our goals on the LA 100 study as well.
Dr. Pickle.
I think a regular part of this risk assessment process, but also the strategic plan, is a ongoing technology assessment process. There is a lot of innovation going on around storage. There's a lot of innovation going on around renewable generation. That we can have risks of the good kind, breakthroughs that can be commercialized promptly, that may cause us to change our investment strategy. And as part of as we go forward and invest, we have to have an active technology assessment process.
Good point. Thank you.
This applies in water as well.
Thank you, Dr. Pickle. Are there any additional questions or comments to be made at this point?
I think it's a question, comment, just because I know we have a long afternoon too. I know some of you or a number of you travel to conferences and keep up to date. Are there any other utilities across the country that where you're able to share where you're at with regard to this type of decision making you're going through? Like, where are they at with the risk assessment and the decisions that they're making with regard to the next 10, 20, 30 years?
So I think there are a number of venues that DWP participates in. It's Jason mentioned the EPRI, the Electric Power Research Institute. So we have an ongoing MOU with them. So we can every year we have them help us assess different areas, including battery storage, safety of batteries, a lot of different areas, DER deployments. There is also the Large Public Power Council, which is the largest, I want to say 60 public power utilities in the country, where we have an emerging trends task force, and various utilities take the lead on that to help others be up to speed on different technologies that are being deployed. There are other members in that group that also participate with EPRI doing their own different types of research, as well as their local universities and colleges for specific areas. So we are very much engaged in those processes and have regular meetings to understand what's coming out, understand the new technology, and be able to assess, its fit both in basin, out of basin, and within our overall future plans. And that is part of what our strategic long-term resource plan also looks at. That's why it's so important that you do annual refreshes so that we can keep that pulse and keep realistic utility scale deployment feasibility as we develop our future plans.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to know. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I note that Mr. Wilbur has been notably silent throughout this conversation, which, yeah, I'm just going to kind of hold in abeyance my specific questions toward him, except to say that I imagine we will be hearing quite a lot from you in January when there's a report on the PSRP. So if there are no other questions or comments, and in light of the clock, commissioner availability, et cetera, we will move forward to the next item, which is, we're done with presentations. We're item J, filed reports. Are there any questions or comments with respect to the items under J? Seeing none, we'll now take up approval of the minutes. I need a motion for approval of the minutes from September 28th, 2021. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I second. Would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Lehr will have to abstain. She was not present. So, President McCLAIN-HILL?
Aye.
Vice President Reyes?
Aye.
Commissioner Barad Hopkins?
Aye.
Commissioner NEEMAN Brady?
Aye.
I'm here.
Commissioner Lehr, you were not at that meeting, so cannot record a vote on this item.
Yes.
So it is 4-1. The item is passed. Thank you. We'll now go to items for discussion. I think the only item that was called special is item 7. And thank you. David Jaco, I assume, will be making a presentation on this item?
Yes, he is ready to make a presentation on this item. David, go ahead.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, President and Commissioners. I know it's been a long time coming, but we're very happy and very pleased to bring this particular program to board for your review and hopefully approval today. I know it's been a very long day so far and you still have a long afternoon, so I'll defer to the board as to what level of detail you'd like to get into. So I'll probably move fairly quickly, but if you want to jump in with any questions, by all means do. Next slide. So bottom line, what is the Comprehensive Affordable Multifamily Retrofit Program, which we call CAMR, going to deliver? Significant cost savings for low-income tenants and affordable housing property owners and managers, deep decarbonization of multifamily buildings through energy efficiency, building electrification, and on-site solar, and skilled family supporting green jobs for the local workforce. And it's going to achieve this by providing robust incentives and technical support to the participants, and also, and it's very important, including level playing field requirements for the participants' contractors to pay prevailing wages and adhere to labor standards, skilled and trained workforce requirements. So what that piece essentially means is they may or may not be a trade signatory, like IBEW Local 11, but on a CAMR project that's getting our incentives, they need to act like it. They need to pay prevailing wage and where applicable, comply with skilled and trained workforce requirements. Next slide. So this is based on state's long-running program, low-income weatherization program. Some of the speakers this morning mentioned it, but we've customized it, enhanced it to meet LA-specific needs and objectives. One of those was the labor requirement, the prevailing wage requirement. And so the implementer has been chosen to be Association for Energy Affordability, and we're looking, what you're actually set to approve today is a $17 million professional services contract for 5 years with AEA. There's an additional $75 million in the program for the incentives that will be processed and paid out by LADWP over those same 5 years. This is really a $92 million program, $75 million of it going to customer incentives and $17 million for the professional services. AEA's role, they're the on-the-ground implementer working directly with customers and contractors on each project and helping them line up financing as well. It's a very specialized area. among other things. And then our role is to monitor that. You know, we review, we approve each milestone. We do all the internal coordination with the other leverage programs, and you'll see this in a bit, how we plan to have this program work with HYPE and solar and VNEM and potentially others. And we'll also be processing all the associated incentives internally. Next slide. Very quickly, properties must have 5 or more units. That's the definition of commercial real estate. They have to meet an affordability requirement, at least 2/3 households at or below 80% of median income. That's a pretty generous criteria. The IOUs have used one that's been stricter, and they've been trying to get, stakeholders have been trying to get the IOUs to relax theirs. This is the one that people want. It's more generous, and we believe in it as well. Each project must achieve at least 10% energy savings before doing anything else. So once they get at least to that level, they can also look at building electrification and solar. The main thing is we want enough energy savings that we're not actually raising customers' energy costs. And we're planning to coordinate with our VNEM pilot, the virtual net energy metering pilot. That's how the investment that the property makes in the solar system can be allocated back to the tenant. Next one. Very high level process flow. AEA will be assisting the customer through each of these steps. It's a shepherding process. Get signed up, get the support, reserve the money, do the project, and verify it and get the incentives with LADWP and a verification role for each step. Next slide. The incentive levels are tied to carbon dioxide equivalent reduction on a metric ton basis. This is new for us. The states run their LEHRER program this way since inception. We're exploring this because we're doing energy efficiency, building electrification, and on-site solar, and those don't necessarily translate in and out of our traditional KWH energy metrics. So what we've done is we've taken the state levels and enhanced them a bit because of knowing that there's going to be increased project costs due to the prevailing wage requirements and the skilled and trained workforce. But we've worked closely with industry to ballpark this. We have the opportunity to change these as we evolve the program as it goes, either up or down, whatever makes sense. We also recognize that there's a big barrier to installing electric heat pumps, water heaters, HVAC units when it comes to the panels. And so we've allocated another $750 per unit, and this is multifamily units per unit, to upgrade the electrical infrastructure to handle the building electrification measures. Next slide. A key piece of this is compliance with LA's existing buildings energy and water efficiency benchmarking ordinance, also known as EBEWE. And this is currently in force, and multifamily properties typically have the highest barriers, the highest knowledge and resource barriers to complying. And so a key element of the CAMER program will be support when they do their projects in documenting and achieving compliance with EBEWE. Next slide. We'll also be using this touch point of this program to raise knowledge of our other programs that we serve customers with. This is a very small segment. You got a bigger taste of it, obviously, this morning from George Rafael on the debt relief program. But anytime we can get in front of the customer and alert them to other opportunities, such as through our brochures, mailers and flyers, email blasts, the LADWP website, et cetera, we'll be using this as another touch point to raise as much awareness as we can about all the offerings that we have. Next slide. But this CAMER program is designed to take that a step further. It's one thing to provide door hangers while we're out there doing something else. But this one, actually, we're building CAMER as a modular foundation upon which to build other offerings into. And I want to give you a prime example here. The Home Energy Improvement Program, which has been expanded by $15 million a year, alongside this program, which is also coming in at $15 million a year in terms of rebates. These programs are going to work together. Home Energy Improvement Program can do stuff for customers for free that they might otherwise have to pay for through CAMER. So we're going to merge those two programs from a customer standpoint, and to the extent that HYPE is ramped up and they're hiring now, when we're ready to launch this first quarter 2022, The idea is that anything the customer would pay for through camera, they'll get it free through home energy improvement. And then we'll reserve the camera rebates and incentives for the larger stuff, the central system, the electrification measures, the solar, et cetera. So that way we don't have these programs competing with each other. We leverage them for the customer's benefit. And then that platform provides a foundation to layer in other things, water conservation, other income-based discount programs, energy efficiency. We see the ability to bring demand response, energy storage, and electric vehicle charging in at some point. The program won't launch with those from day one, but the way we've set it up to be modular, those modules, if you will, can be added in. Next slide. This is extremely important. This is the skill job creation piece. We partnered with IBW, specifically Local 11, and their training staff to develop those level playing field requirements I mentioned earlier. The contractors, the customer's contractors that they hire don't have to be IBW contractors, but they have to act like it on that particular job. They have to pay the prevailing wage. The labor standard skilled and workforce requirements have been established by the California trades. They have to have C10 licenses. That's a really big deal to the trade industry. And then for projects, the big projects beyond 65 units, contractors must meet the skilled and trained workforce requirements. We worked with not just IBW, but actually with LAOC trades, construction trades on that one. And they said, if it meets Measure HHH requirements, it's good with them, and this is the threshold for that. So we're supporting this outside of just electrical work, plumbers, carpentry, etc. The next slide. So the internal capacity so that we can actually be successful with this program. Obviously, we're hiring AEA to be the customer level integrator and implementer, but we'll also have significant LADWP staffing additions for this. Specifically, 14 additional program management and engineering staff for my group, Efficiency Solutions, have been approved and are budgeted. And this is on top of the 62 positions in power construction maintenance and 8 program management staff for the $15 million a year expansion of HYPE. So that's 8 plus 62 is 70, 84 additional staff between these two programs. And I just want to take the opportunity to mention that the stakeholders who called in this morning and we're very happy to support this program. When they initiated this process 3-4 years ago, they were asking for $20 million a year dedicated to this customer class, this customer segment, low income multifamily. They're getting $30 million, $15 million. We're committing $30 million a year, $15 million for the HYPE expansion and $15 million for camera. So we really saw the opportunity here and saw an opportunity to go beyond what was being requested because the need was so great and the opportunity so strong. The next slide. So initial targets. In the first year, we plan to sign up at least 3,000 units, and we're looking to serve at least 12,500 units throughout the 5-year period, targeting an average 40% energy reduction per property served, very aggressive. This one's fuzzy, the bill savings per tenant. We pegged it initially at around $500 to $800 a year. That's about $40 to $70 a month. But we see the opportunity to increase that as we can add more measures in. And we'll also have to see what transpires with VNEM as we get more solar systems installed and those flows back to the customers. I appreciated one of the stakeholders' comments this morning that they would like to see a 1-year check-in on this program, and we 100% support that because right now we've got plans, but we need numbers, we need on-the-ground experience. We were able to extrapolate some from the state's LEHRER program to come up with these forecasted numbers, but we really have got to get out, hit the ground running. Now, to that point, we have already identified a significant pipeline of likely qualifying projects, good candidates we call them. 33 projects encompassing about 1,500 units and about $8 million of potential incentives. So we already have a pipeline, and we're going to work that from day one as soon as the programs launch. Next slide. And I think we're close to wrapping this. The Vice President SUSANA Reyes led a stakeholder process earlier this year, late last year, earlier this year, to really get to the nuts and bolts of what we want to achieve through this program. and work with stakeholders to kind of narrow down a set of metrics. So, you know, the idea that we're going to hold ourselves accountable, absolutely. And these were the metrics that came out of those stakeholder processes. I see them there. I don't have to read them, but basically, it's making sure the program's successful. It's getting the resources to the customers. It's getting us the benefits that we need for our goals. You know, not just the resource side, but the equity goals and equity metrics as well. And so it's pretty extensive. This was developed, like I said, in concert with the stakeholder group. And this has already been communicated to our contractor, AEA, that we will want regular reporting along all these dimensions. And of course, then we'll present that to the board in periodic intervals. Next slide. So, you know, we see CAMR as kind of at the intersection of LA's needs and equity, employment, and environment. And with that, I'd like to open it up to questions.
I'm going to sort of draw from a strong letter we got from the American Institute of Architects about process within DWP, which we talk about in terms of getting projects, you know, off the ground and reviewed in an appropriate time. And there's a large group of those people. It seems to me that with this program, with the kind of changes you're expecting to these buildings, and especially once you get to 40 units, 50, 60 units, that community of professionals will also, you know, be involved and benefit from, you know, the opportunities. So I'm assuming there's a process of sort of selection for professionals, whether it's engineers or architects, that are maybe small businesses or local or minority businesses. So, I mean, that's a question.
Okay. The customer hires their own contractors. So a couple things. The implementation contractor, AEA, will be helping us with all that to help make the process as expedited, smooth, and high quality for the customers as possible. That's why, you know, at this point we need a professional third-party implementer who's been doing this type of program in the state for some time and knows how to make it work. So that's going to help from that standpoint. The customers hire their own contractors. We do not have any direct connection, nor does AEA to hiring contractors. That said, AEA will help the customers in the hiring of the contractors. Typically, these types of projects, depending on scope, are mostly done by contractors who have their own in-house engineering staff and architectural staff. But there will be opportunities for, you know, a contractor who subs it out and hires somebody else. The focus will definitely be on local entities and local contractors.
Are there specific organizations, AIA or others, that you would like us to reach out and make sure that they know, you know, they're aware of the program? And
yeah, they're aware of the program. And I would say, David, that once you get to somebody owning 60 units, you know, you don't necessarily have an in-house engineer and an in-house architect. And as you're changing a building with new technologies, you're getting involved in the A&E professions, period. So because of permits, and you know, you have to have the drawings, and you have to have the surveys, and you have to have, you know, structural engineers. So yeah, I think it would be wise to get a hold of AIA, and we all, as commissioners, got a letter in the last month from the AIA, hoping to sort of engage in a conversation about some of the issues associated with requirements from DWP, with new technologies, with access, and also, you know, all sorts of things that are, as the city grows and matures, and what you know, how things are changing. And so we've been, you know, I'm hoping we're getting back to them soon. So yes, from your perspective, Nancy, I think this program would be something they would really appreciate knowing about.
Yeah, we will definitely reach out to them. And David, I have a copy of the letter. I'll forward it to you so you can take a look and see if there's an opportunity to plug in there. But absolutely, thank you.
Okay.
David, I wanted to ask you a question. This is primarily for people who are commercial units. This is not for the homeowner. Is that correct?
Well, it's for low-income multifamily properties. By and large, these are larger developments. Like I said, it goes down to 5 units, but generally it's usually 20 units and above is the most popular participation. So it is residential units, but they're usually owned by usually nonprofit or mom and pop type entities as a commercial enterprise.
Okay, so if the homeowner
this is primarily residential, or this is all residential
and apartments
aimed at residential properties.
Okay, so if a homeowner wanted to participate in this, how would they be able to do that?
So our home energy improvement program, HYPE, is meant for single-family property owners and also potentially condo or townhome owners. So CAMR's not really for a single-family house, but we have the home energy improvement program run by power construction maintenance folks with the UPCTs, and we're expanding that program, like I said, dramatically as our go-to strategy for single-family homes.
And I think, Commissioner, we have a lot of programs that have been available to the single-family homeowner, and we continue to push those out. What's really been missed is how to get folks in apartment buildings, especially where we have underserved areas. And there's really, we need to really do this extra lift to help the building owners to put in the improvements. And so this is trying to fill a real gap that we see in the programs that we offer, and really try to broaden that energy efficiency availability to everybody across the city.
Yeah, I think this speaks to the issue that Commissioner Lehrer raised in the debt relief presentation, talking about the degree to which we have renters who don't have direct control over their energy bills, and in particular don't have the ability to take advantage of efficiency programs that might otherwise lower those bills and help reduce the amount of debt burden that they have associated with energy usage. So it's through targeting the affordable housing sector with a program that incentivizes and supports the energy efficiency work that we have otherwise been doing in the single-family context, that we're able to bring these benefits to renters. So I know, as David indicated, this has been a very long time coming. I appreciate the euphemism around partnering with labor to arrive at a program configuration that would allow this to move forward. I have to say that I'm very pleased to see the additional components of this effort that ensure that while we are advancing energy efficiency, we're doing so in a way that supports livable wages for the people that are doing the work, so that we are leveraging all of our dollars toward the good. And am very excited to see this finally come to fruition. And I think, like everything else we've discussed today, the devil is in the details around implementation. So, David, don't be concerned about the report back. We will want to monitor around the metrics that you had on a previous slide, the impact of the program. We'll be very interested in implementation and in seeing all of these things move together in as significant and detailed and committed way as our work toward decarbonizing the grid is moving. It's the only way that we're going to be able to realize the first in the nation ambitions of this department. So I appreciate the presentation. Are there additional questions or comments before we move to a vote?
I just will want to, again, just to really stress, I can imagine some owners of some of these larger buildings with multiple units, basically really taking advantage of this opportunity and then turning it around and flipping the buildings. Okay, so there should be something in the basically in your contracts with these owners about how long they have to before they can flip a building. So we know that people are staying there for a while before they have to move on.
When you say flipping the building, Commissioner Lair, I'm confused. Are you talking about the owner's going to sell the building?
I've been around a number of developers who will take advantage of certain, sort of opportunities with regard to this kind of, obligation, funding. And then they just take the building a year later and they sell it off in a package to others for a profit. And it's a cost.
I think that what we're really targeting is not the ownership of the building, and frankly, there's nothing we can do about that.
Mm-hmm.
What we're targeting is the infrastructure that exists within affordable rental units. And, I think our concern would be more around ensuring that these units stay affordable. And
Yes.
That's something that's usually handled in the financing related to the development of the building itself. But, we've just got to be really realistic about what we can control and what we can't, and what we're targeting and what we're not. And the glaring deficiency that we've identified is the ability to assist residents who live in affordable properties with the increased or enhanced infrastructure that would lead to more efficient buildings and lower usage of utility. And I think that really is what this is geared toward doing. And as long as those units remain affordable units, I don't think that we have any role in who owns those units.
A lot of the historical participation in this program is units that are rent stabilized. So anytime it's a development of rent stabilized units, that there's a whole bunch of procedural barriers that exist in those cases for the type of flipping you're talking about, Commissioner Blair. But certainly something to be conscious of and make sure we build in as many safeguards as we can along those lines.
Yeah, we have a number of affordable housing advocates who are part of the stakeholder group, and so we'll continue that dialogue with them.
Are there any additional questions or comments?
Just
Commissioner Reyes.
Yeah, just coming from me, a personal gratitude for all the hard work and persistence we have. Thank you, David. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you to all our stakeholders who've been very patient with us as we maneuvered and navigated this space. Thank you to our commissioner, to President McCLAIN-HILL, because she also has a hand in, shepherding this and fast tracking it to where we are today. I just want to also tell you that, there is a move in Congress to propose another an $18 billion, project or funding for building electrification and energy efficiency programs. So we have to be ready for that as well. And those are for multi-family low-income units, which is really great because then we could, really look at our energy efficiency programs and how this camera or our regular energy efficiency programs through HYPE, right, will be able to help our customers in the long run. So be ready for that. And thank you so much for everything.
Is there a motion to move this forward?
I move it forward.
Second. Would you please take the roll?
President McCLAIN-HILL?
Aye.
Vice President Reyes?
Aye.
Commissioner Barad-Hopkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Lair?
Aye.
Commissioner NEEMAN-Brady?
Aye.
5 ayes, pass.
So the motion is passed. I think that that concludes our business for open session and that we will recess into closed session at this point. Mr. Brejovich.
Before I recess us, is there a particular time you would like to reconvene in closed session, Commissioner?
Why don't we go directly into closed session? We don't have any logistical difficulties around that anymore. So 3 or 2, is it 1:45? We'll reconvene.
Perfect. Then at this point, we will recess and reconvene in closed session to address the closed session portion of the agenda. And in accordance with California Government Code Section 54957.1, we will report any final actions taken therein. Commissioners, please remember that you have a special link for the closed session agenda. We are in recess and we'll see you in closed session.
Please remain silent while our mics are turned off. Thank you.